We'd like to call to order. We'd like to call to order the regular city council meeting for September. We're starting our meeting, everyone. September 18, 2019, 6 p.m. Madam, roll call.
Mayor Ronnie Felder. Chairperson Kashamba Miller Anderson.
Present.
Chair Pro Tem Julia Botel.
Here.
Councilperson Trodrick McCoy.
Here.
Councilperson Shirley Lanier. Here. Councilperson Douglas Lawson.
Here.
City Manager Jonathan Evans.
Present.
City Clerk Claudine Anthony is present. City Attorney Don Nguyen. Here. You may proceed.
We'll have a moment of silence followed by the Pledge of Allegiance led by Councilwoman Lanier.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The abbreviated version. Members of the public shall be given a total of 3 minutes to speak on all items listed on the consent agenda. In no event will anyone be allowed to submit a comment card and speak on a consent agenda item after the adoption of the agenda. Do we have any additions, deletions, or substitutions?
Yes, we do, Madam Chair. If I can have the city clerk read those items into the record.
Madam Chair, prior to reading the additions and deletions to the agenda, please acknowledge that the mayor is now on the dais.
Thank you.
On your addition deletion sheet, you see that we have a number of items added to the agenda. 24A is a community benefits for Friends of Riviera Beach Schools on behalf of Councilwoman Julia Botel in the amount of $2,800. 24B, Children's Outreach, Inc., on behalf of Councilwoman Julia Botel in the amount of $500. A community benefit, 24C, Operation Hope, Inc., on behalf of Julia Botel, councilperson, in the amount of $600. Community benefits, 24D, the Family Development Center, Inc., in the amount of $500 on behalf of Councilwoman Julia Botel. 24E, JITA Outreach Ministries, in the amount of $500 on behalf of Chairperson Kashamba Miller Anderson. 24F, Operation Hope, in the amount of $750 on behalf of Chairperson Kashamba Miller Anderson. 24G, Buy Why Because I'm Worth It International, Inc., in the amount of $750 on behalf of Chairperson Kashamba Miller Anderson. 24H, Children's Outreach, Inc., in the amount of $750 on behalf of Chairperson Kashamba Miller Anderson. 24I is a duplicate, so that is to be deleted from the addition deletion sheet. 24J, Nelson's Outreach Ministries, in the amount of $750 on behalf of Chairperson Kashamba Miller Anderson. 24K, the Pink Queen Foundation, in the amount of $750 on behalf of Chairperson Kashamba Miller Anderson. 24L, Freepreneurs, Inc., in the amount of $750 on behalf of Chairperson Kashamba Miller Anderson. 24M, City of Riviera Beach Library, in the amount of $2,500 on behalf of Chairperson Kashamba Miller Anderson. 24N, Sounds of Success Music, in the amount of $500 on behalf of Mayor Ronnie Felder. And we have a proclamation for 25A in honor of Mediation Week.
Okay, any other additions, deletions, substitutions? Disclosures by council?
Madam Chair,
Go ahead.
so I guess we're just adding this even after we set forth, I believe, a resolution that speaks to a cutoff date?
Well, so what happened was before...
So that's yes?
No. Let me tell you exactly what it is. We had a community benefits, I believe Ms. Lanier did a little while back, and then someone else needed to put a community benefits on as well. That was added on after our Friday agreement date. And also because we know that September is the end of the spending time for our community benefits. So they were added on. We've made a couple of exceptions since we've done that, and it was only for community benefits. Now, in relation to the mediation week, it actually was sent in a couple weeks ago, but it was for some reason overlooked. So it was done well before Friday's date. that just passed. Anything else?
Yes.
Go ahead.
So, I and certainly nothing personal, but it seems like all of them are generally yours, with the exception of a few of them that I see with Dr. Botel.
Right.
So, I did notice in some of the backup, it appears that the 501c designation letter was substituted for the Department of Revenue tax exempt letter, and I'm not sure, because I'm just seeing this now, if we've kind of clarified that. So I want to make it a point that if we are to,
Well, in the actual application, they are not required to be a 501c3. They are required to be a nonprofit.
well, Madam Chair, respectfully, that's what determines a designation, a 501c3 designation.
You can have a nonprofit without the 501c3. You can. And this has been looked up before, where we have not, it is not required that you have the 501c3 documentation, as long as they're a nonprofit. Some people have a nonprofit and may have applied for their 501c3, but haven't received it yet.
Okay.
But we do not, within our resolution, it does not require that you have a 501c3.
Okay, but I thought the IRS was the agency that determines if an organization is nonprofit.
Well,
So you're saying-
SunBiz, so you can go on SunBiz, and you can start a nonprofit, and it is considered a nonprofit, am I correct?
It's not considered a legitimate nonprofit by the IRS until they have received their 501c3.
But with if we look at our resolution and the application for our community benefits, does it say they have to have a 501c3?
I don't know, I don't have that in front of me.
The application is right there. It's in the packet, in the backup, yeah.
Madam Chair,
We've never requested or demanded that they have a 501c3. Go ahead.
I do have a question on that because I had two applicants that I previously submitted that were denied. I don't know if Mr. Sherman could give us clarity, but that was denied because they did not have that status.
But who denied it?
Finance.
He can come up and speak to it, but in the past, I used to request that they have their 501c3 status, and I was told that we cannot demand that they have that because it was not a part of it.
I agree. I knew that when I submitted the
And so
application.
I kind of backed off from that over the years.
Oh, no, my discussion and argument is that I agree with you. The people that submitted the application were denied previously. This was about a month and a half ago, so I just want clarity.
That's
so
something
that-
new that we're doing.
Randy Sherman, Director of Finance. I know, I think there were like two or three
Yes.
that you've submitted, but the most recent one, they had applied for the 501c3.
Right.
And they didn't have the response back yet.
Okay.
That's why, so there was nothing attached.
But they did have the nonprofit, as our chair is saying, they had the nonprofit status that was
Right,
online.
and we do accept it, we either accept it from the state if they have the designation, where the state has them listed as a nonprofit, or we look for the IRS the letter from the IRS. Those are the two things that we typically look for.
So you do not have to have the 501c3 if they're in some biz as a nonprofit, that is
If they're
acceptable.
accepted as state as a nonprofit. right?
Exactly.
We do accept that.
So for clarity, Mr. Sherman, those applicants were submitted as nonprofit, they just had not got back their application status from their 501 for all three of the clients I submitted that were actually rejected. So I want to make sure we have clarity moving
Right.
forward with that resolution, understanding, because I have individuals that wanted to actually receive community benefits that I was offering it to. They had events that they were going to actually pay for and that we were turned down. So if we don't have clarity, then we can't provide the services that's necessary.
Yeah, and I gladly pull out the resolution and we can bring it
Please.
back if we want to add some clarity to it and
Okay.
do that.
Anything else?
I'm not sure I understand what you mean, bring it back.
Well, I want to say it was 2009 or something when the resolution actually got adopted on what you could use your community benefit dollars for. Might have been a year or two either
Okay.
way. So my point is we can bring that resolution back and add clarity to it if you'd like.
I don't have
Madam Chair, if I may, one of the things that I think probably on a more global discussion that we should talk about community benefits in its entirety, and if we're going to have a discussion on it, let's look at it holistically versus making modifications to the resolution that exists. So if the board would indulge staff, we'd like to bring it back at one of your future workshops to discuss it in more specificity.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
I agree. I'd like to see us look more globally at those community benefits and not use them kind of piecemeal, but rather take a big idea like the Bahamian Relief or like a big education initiative and say, this is what, as a council, we want to use it for, rather than little bitty things. Not that they're not important, but I agree.
All right, anyone else? All right, so do we have disclosures by council?
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Just that I had been, actually, I was the founder of the Friends of the Riviera Beach Schools, but I am no longer a director, and I've stepped away from any responsibility in that organization.
All right. Anyone else? All right, we have a motion to adopt the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
All right, Madam Clerk?
Councilperson Lawson,
Yes.
Councilperson Lanier, Councilperson McCoy,
Yes.
Pro Tem Dotel,
Yes.
Chair Miller Anderson.
Yes.
Unanimous vote.
All right, consent agenda. All matters listed under this item are considered to be routine, and action will be taken by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a councilperson so requests, in which event the item will be removed from the general order of business and considered in its normal sequence on the agenda. Do you all have any items that you would like to pull from the consent agenda? All right, can we have a motion to accept
So
the
moved.
consent agenda with the additions?
So moved.
All right, can we have any public comment cards for consent?
Madam Chair, we do have public comment cards for the consent agenda. The acceptance of public comment cards for the consent agenda is now closed. Bonnie Larson, Mary Beth Coffer, Chandra Stringer.
I want to just remind everyone to keep an eye on your 3-minute time clock there.
Bonnie Larson, I think you just answered
Good
my
evening.
question. Good evening. Because the community benefits, the way I understood it at first, and I may be wrong, was that this money was doled out to each one of the council people and the mayor, and then they would use it for things within their community. I was thinking each person would use it for something within their district. That was my understanding of it. But what I would like to see is the entire, I asked about the waste management contract, but I didn't get an answer, when that is due. And if you're talking about now having a workshop about it, that would be great, because then we could really understand where that money goes. Because we're the taxpayers, we're the ones who pay into it. Waste Management gives it to us, and they get a write-off for it, of course. They do it with other cities, but it's a write-off for them, so it's good for them. But I'd like it also to be good for us. And that's why, like, a lot of times we have funds going out to outlying cities and things like that. And since it's our tax money, I'd kind of like to see it used within the confines of our district. So, but that'll all be clarified if you have a workshop and everybody make a decision. But it'd be good to see that contract, see when it's due, and every one of us read the provisions of how that money is to be spent. That'd be good if we did that before the workshop to save time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mary Beth Coffer, Chandra Stringer.
Mary Beth Kofer, 2640 Lake Shore Drive, Riviera
Good evening.
Beach. On behalf of the Friends of Riviera Beach Schools, I would like to thank the council, especially Councilman McCoy, for his donation. The $1,000 that he will be providing will be used to provide desks, desk lamps, and desk chairs to children living in the Stony Brook apartments. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Chandra Stringer.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Chandra Stringer, 1149 West 33rd Street, Riviera Beach, Florida. I am representing GCI Training and Empowerment Center Incorporated. You will see two items. One was in collaboration, but the one I'm here for is the intro to nonprofit grant writing and resource development. I request and hope that that would be approved on tonight so we can provide services for individuals that are starting nonprofit organizations so they'll understand what it entails and what are the regulations, what are the back office upkeeps. Because we do understand that many of our grassroots organizations are doing the work day in and day out, but they don't have a seat at the table to be able to apply for your larger grants and know that grants is just one portion of their resource development process, resource development fund. And so it is in my hope that we would put that on. It would be a strictly basic type of workshop for 3 weeks for residents that are maybe thinking about starting a nonprofit, and for those grassroots organizations that are actually doing nonprofit work. And how do they, now that they are, how do they grow and how are they sustained long-term? Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, that completes public comments on the consent agenda at this time.
All right. unfinished, I'm sorry, do we have a motion to accept?
We
I'm sorry,
have-
we already did. We just need to
Have
go
the
ahead and
motion, we need to
vote.
take the vote.
Go ahead.
Councilperson Lawson?
Yes.
Councilperson Lanier? Councilperson McCoy?
Yes.
Pro Tem Botel?
Yes.
Chair Miller Anderson?
Yes.
Unanimous vote.
That's the end of the consent agenda. Unfinished business? None.
None.
Petitions and communications for filing?
Yes, Madam Chair. On behalf of the Palm Beach County Supervisor of Elections Office, we, the residents of Palm Beach County, are aware that new voting equipment has been purchased for us, and the Palm Beach County Supervisor of Elections Office will be here on Tuesday, September 24th at 5:30 p.m. to demonstrate on the new equipment that has been purchased. I want to encourage everyone to come out. If you need a copy of the letter, please stop by the office of the city clerk, and we'll be happy to provide you with as many copies as you need. That is all, Madam Chair.
All right, awards and presentation, item number 25.
Palm Tran schedule changes for the city of Riviera Beach. Madam Chair, Council, it has listed that Sean Hill will make the presentation. However, Ms. Nakasha Wells will do the presentation.
All right, good evening.
Good evening. So while we wait for IT,
Madam Chair, while we're waiting for the presentation, there are no public comment cards on this item. The acceptance of public comment cards on this item is now closed.
Thank you.
good evening, Mayor Felder,
Good evening.
Council. I'm Nakasha Wells, the Senior Manager of Governmental Affairs for Palm Tran. Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to come before you just to give you a very brief presentation on some service changes that we have coming up that have implications here in the city of Riviera Beach. And what we are trying to do is to come out to some of our larger municipalities where we have a lot of service on a quarterly basis when we do our service changes so that the residents know those changes and how they are going to affect their travel. So just a couple of quick facts about Palm Tran. We do 9 million boardings a year, more than any other public transportation here in Palm Beach County combined, with 32 routes and over 2,900 stops throughout the county. And you all are very familiar with our RPM project from last year that we came and did a presentation on. So we have 8 routes within the city of Riviera Beach that are listed here with over 171 stops, which is more than many of our other larger cities here in the county that represent almost 500,000 boardings a year. So we have a tremendous amount of service here in the city. So the goal of service changes is always an increase in ridership. So one of the things that we've done is try to increase frequency of our routes. We've outlined all of the routes where frequency has increased, even the ones outside of the city, just so that your residents know. Because we know that even though their rides are initiated here in the city, they go throughout the entire county. So Route 31, which is the route here in Riviera Beach, has been increased in frequency from 30 minutes to 20 minutes. And then the Jog Road extension to Vista Center now goes all the way up Jog Road to Vista Center. Route 73 on Boynton Beach Boulevard has Sunday service now. And one of the service changes that we're the most excited about is now Route 63 actually will go all the way to Lake Worth Beach. So again, Route 31 is the route that's has the most impact here in the city. So one of the changes that we definitely wanted to highlight is it's kind of a technical term, a switch alignment. And all that means is that Route 43 and Route 31, which both start at the VA hospital, they basically are now switching. So what Route 4 used to do is now Route 31 and vice versa. So Route 4 the current is the one on the left side. Route 4 would start at the VA hospital, go down Military Trail, and then switch over, the switch alignment, over to Haverhill, and then Route 31 did exactly the opposite. And now we've just kind of straightened the routes out, so now Route 31 goes down, and where you see the dotted line, that's where there's no longer service. So just that little small part of 45th Street no longer has service, but we've tried to straighten the routes out a little bit, so it's a little less confusing to our riders. And then Route 30, we came and we did a presentation to you all a few months ago about Route 21, which serviced Stony Brook, and we eliminated a portion of that route. We have since put that back based on feedback that we got from the residents of Stony Brook. So all this is just a little more cleanup from that change. Route 30 is what used to service Stony Brook, and it made, if you look on the left side, it made that deviation down and then back up to 8th Street. And so we no longer need for it to do that because we put Route 21 back based on the feedback from the residents of Stony Brook. So now Route 30 is just going to make that straight line instead of making the Stony Brook deviation. So just giving you a little bit of an update on some other initiatives we have going on. We still are working on our bus shelter RFP. And I will be reaching out to Mr. Evans so that we could set up a meeting to discuss putting more street furniture here in the city. And we have semi-seats, which they're just this small. It's in the first picture on the top left-hand side, where it's like a two-seater. It's not, as luxurious as a shelter, but it is a seating option, and we just finalized an RFP, a solicitation for a semi-seat. So we have about 50 to 100 of them that will be installed throughout the county, and a number of them will be here in the city of Riviera Beach. So we're excited about that. We are continuing to work on our development review process. And one of the projects that we think the residents will definitely benefit the most from is our Fair Technology project, which we hope will be rolled out in the spring. All that means is that now our system, our Fair Technology system right now is very outdated. So we're trying to get it to the point, of our partners to the south in Broward and Dade, where you can use your smartphone, a watch, you can use a number of different mediums to be able to pay for your fares. The second part of that project is to also make it where you can utilize that same system in Broward and Dade. So that's a much longer range project because, of course, the main part of that is the funding. And if you make a ride from here in Palm Beach County all the way down to Miami-Dade, dividing up the revenue amongst the three agencies is a large project to undertake. And then we have our Delray facility that's going up in the spring of 2020. And with that, any questions?
Okay, do we have any questions or comments from the board? I'd like to thank you so much. We
Fantastic.
appreciate
Thank you so much for the
Have a
opportunity.
good one. All right, item 25A.
Proclamation for Mediation Week from the Office of the Mayor. Madam Chair, members of the council, we do not have any public comment cards on this item. The acceptance of public comment cards on this item is now closed.
All right, Mayor. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Proclamation from the Office of the Mayor, City of Riviera Beach, Palm Beach County, Florida. Whereas mediation is an informal and non-adversarial process in which a neutral and impartial third party aims to facilitate communication and negotiation between the disputing parties and to help them reach a mutual, acceptable, and voluntary agreement without prescribing what it should be. And whereas mediation and other voluntary collaborative dispute resolution processes provide effective alternatives and litigation to court trials, and whereas alternative dispute resolution, ADR, including mediation, has been utilized by the Florida court system to resolve disputes for over 30 years, offering litigants court-connected opportunities to resolve their disputes without judicial intervention. And whereas the state of Florida is nationally recognized as the leader in the growing ADR field with one of the most comprehensive court-connected mediation programs in the country. And whereas mediators and other dispute resolution practitioners through their concentrated expertise in helping parties find lasting solutions to complex problems have continually demonstrated the value of alternative dispute resolution. And whereas the Palm Beach County Bar Association, through the Alternative Dispute Resolution Committee, seeks to promote and use the value of ADR processes to lawyers, the judicial and public, and considers these processes to help parties resolve disputes without a trial in a less costly and more timely and satisfying manner. And whereas the American Bar Association have declared the third week in October as Mediation Week in celebration of the strides made in institutionalizing mediation as one of the several appropriate dispute resolution processes. And whereas in mediation, along with the principles and practices it embodies, like self-determination as a process outcome, open communication, collaborative problem solving, can be a crucial tool for peacemaking between and among individual groups, units, neighborhoods, and governments, as well as in workplaces. And whereas the City of Riviera Beach expresses its appreciation of the Palm Beach County Bar Association, and especially to the members of the ADR Committee for their efforts in promoting alternative dispute resolution throughout Palm Beach County. Now therefore, I, Ronnie L. Felder, Mayor of City of Riviera Beach, by the power vested in me by the residents of Riviera Beach, do hereby proclaim October 13, 2019 to October 19, 2019 as Mediation Week in the City of Riviera Beach. In witness whereof, I have hereunto set my hand and caused the official seal of the City of Riviera Beach to be affixed on this 18th day of September 2019 AD.
So we have Vice Mayor from Haverhill, Lawrence Gordon, accepting the proclamation.
Thank you so very, very much. I'm Lawrence Gordon, Vice Mayor in the town of Haverhill. I'm also president of the new Palm Beach County Caucus of Black Elected Officials. But I am not here as an elected official tonight. I'm here as a member of the Palm Beach County Bar Association, its ADR committee. ADR is just a fancy word for mediation, communications, talking to each other. And the purpose of the proclamation is to encourage people to communicate with each other, speak with each other, work out your differences as opposed to becoming more tribal than what we already are. Less litigation, more communication, kinder neighborhoods. That's the purpose of Mediation Week. We're also sponsoring an essay and video contest in the school system or for seniors. There will be 5 monetary prizes given out to the top 5 essays and or videos, so we're excited about that. And that presentation will be done at the school board during Mediation Week. Again, I'd like to especially thank Chairwoman Miller Anderson, Mayor Felder, and the rest of the council for allowing us to participate, and we look forward to seeing you in the future. Thank you so very, very much.
Thank you. All right, item 26.
Presentation on When They See Us Community Forum and conversation to discuss where do we go from here by Leontine Brown, Pretty Girls Vote, Inc. Madam Chair, we do not have any public comment cards on this item. The acceptance of public comment cards on this item is now closed.
Okay. Good evening.
Good evening. Good evening.
Good evening.
To the mayor, to Madam Chair, to your Vice Chair, and to the City Council as a whole. My name is Leontine Brown. I'm the founder of Pretty Girls Vote, and I also am an entrepreneur here in Palm Beach County. I have a marketing and communications agency here in Palm Beach County and have been born and raised here, moved away, came back, and hope to have made an impact here in Palm Beach County. And I am joined today, hi, Councilman Lawson, how you doing? Great. Joined today by Councilman Lawson. About a month ago, we had a conversation about a very impactful docuseries that happened in New York City, and we wanted to bring it to the residents of Riviera Beach. And so we endeavored to work with the staff and the city, and we got some strategic partners, and we decided to make it happen. I do want to say that, as you all can see, I'm working off of a Mac. I converted this presentation to a PC, so we'll see how it goes.
All righty.
See, I already am messing up. So the purpose here today, we successfully had a screening of the acclaimed 4-part docuseries When They See Us in Riviera Beach. And today we wanted to come back to you all and provide you all with a recap as well as an update. You all were talking about community benefits and how you all are planning on orchestrating that in the near future. But one of the things that we really wanted to do was to come back and tell you all what happened. So not just you all supporting us, but also us coming back and letting you know how successful or unsuccessful a project may or may have not been. And our project happened to be very successful. So just to give you all an overview, the Emmy Award nominated series When They See Us follows the heart-wrenching story of 5 boys of color between the ages of 13 and 16, and we kept reiterating that throughout the 4-part series. They were wrongfully convicted of the assault and rape of a white woman in New York City. The 4-part docuseries highlights the institutional racism within the criminal justice system, coupled with media bias and public scrutiny that led to the traumatic loss of childhood for these 5 boys and the horrendous effect that this loss had on their families. And so our vision and our goals was not just to have dinner and a movie, but we wanted to bring this important 4-part series directly to the community. We wanted to bring unification of the residents, the police department, community leaders, and the mental health community. And we also wanted to provide parents and children with the tools and techniques to have very difficult conversations about racism, about the police and the criminal justice system. Our strategy was to have direct community engagement. So the easy thing to have done with this particular project would have been to be in one location, particularly the marina, because they already have audiovisual components, and to just go to one location and show this 4 times. But Councilman Lawson actually was the one who was extremely adamant that we had to go into the community. And so that was actually more difficult, it was more expensive, it took more time, but it was the thing that made this series so impactful. And I'm going to show you all a picture at the very end as to why it was impactful. We wanted to have expert panelists, and I'll show you all a list of those panelists in 1 second. We developed strategic partnerships with Trendy Gourmet. One of the things was, because this was a long series and we also wanted to include the panelists, we had to start each of the episodes right at 4:30, so we had to include dinner. We wanted this to be a family-friendly event, and so we had to include dinner. And so we partnered with a very good friend of mine, Trinette Morris, with Trendy Gourmet, and she gave us a really, really great deal and was able to provide dinner to over 150 people every single week. The Riviera Beach Police Department, who we'll hear from, was a wonderful partner of ours. The City of Riviera Beach Parks and Rec, Riviera Beach Clean and Safe, and the executive staff. We could not have done this. She's stepped away, but we could not have done this without the acting assistant city manager, Deidre Jacobs, and the assistant director of Parks and Recreations, Aladia Franks. Our sponsors, of course, were the City of Riviera Beach, which is the reason why we're here today, to provide you all with an update, the CRA, the Office of City Councilman Douglas Lawson, Pretty Girls Vote, and Healthier Neighbors. The marketing that we did was primarily on social media. We wanted to keep the cost down, but one of the things that we did do, because this was a 4-part series and this was something that hadn't really been done in the city before, this ongoing project was, we decided that we were going to do one large flyer and then do individual flyers for each of the individual events, because it was going to be changing. The location of the event was going to be changing. So we did one flyer to express or explain what was going to happen, and then individual flyers. The considerations. This was a very, very sensitive subject. You were talking about rape, sodomy, you're talking about racism, you're talking about children being placed in the juvenile justice system, you're talking about police brutality and coercion, the institutional racism within the criminal justice system. These were some very sensitive subjects. You were talking about ex-felons coming back into the community, and so we took into consideration how sensitive this subject matter was, and one of the things that Healthier Neighbors was adamant about before they got involved was that we needed to have the mental health aspect always as a consideration. So one of the things that we did was, not only did we have mental health experts on our panel every single week, but we also had mental health experts in the audience. I don't know how many people in the room had an opportunity to see all 4 pieces of When They See Us, but it's heart-wrenching. It's difficult to watch. There's some levels of PTSD that come along with seeing those types of images, and so we wanted to have mental health professionals on site and available if anyone had any reactions. And so we took into those considerations. We wanted to have experts in 5 areas. We wanted judges, prosecution and defense attorneys, mental health professionals, community advocates, and police officers. And so you'll see a list. Oh, it converted well. You'll see a list of our expert panelists. The Honorable Maxine Cheeseman, the Honorable Bradley Harper, and the Honorable Sarah Willis were our judges. We also had Assistant State Attorney Alexia Cox. You all may know Alexia Cox as one of the individuals that participated in one of the high-profile cases that just happened with Norman Raja. Out of Palm Beach Gardens. She was one of the prosecutors on that case. And it was very important for us to have a prosecutor as well as defense attorneys. So you'll be able to see all of the attorneys, all of the experts that we had, as well as all of the police officers. And let me take the time now to say thank you so much to Interim Chief Rozier. He did not miss any of the four. He was always there. He always had his officers available, and we really appreciate it. The discussion points. Again, this was not just dinner and a movie. We wanted to extract some of the issues that were within that movie or within that docuseries and have some very, very valuable discussions. And so we talked about tools and techniques when interacting with the police, parental rights, what to do if you're stopped or questioned by the police, how your mental health is affected by police brutality, the role of social media. One of the things that I talked about is because I give a lot of information on Pretty Girls Vote on social media, sometimes you have to take a break from social media. It can get very difficult. And so we talked about that, the community responsibility to ex-offenders re-entering the community. In the 3rd episode of When They See Us, you will note that there was one of the young gentlemen who was arrested. He was rearrested. He started started selling drugs, excuse me, I apologize. He started selling drugs because he couldn't get a job, and you saw him actively trying to get employed, the issues with employment. And so we discussed the community's responsibilities to ex-offenders re-entering the community, media labeling and public scrutiny and backlash, the importance of the Black community telling its own stories. This whole story about these 5 young men has completely changed because a Black woman told the story of 5 Black men, and sometimes we have to tell our own stories, and that's really important to our community. Community leaders and elected officials' roles in advocating for the rights of both innocent and convicted citizens, legislation for clean and safe prisons, juvenile justice system, and the fair sentencing practices, and school suspension to prison pipeline. Our results, we had 150 residents attend on average each of these events. With the final event, we had about 250 residents come to our final event. And that was during some really, really torrential weather. We had some weather issues, and people still came because of the importance of this event. And we thank each and every one of you all for your attendance as well. The average social media engagement was over 2,000 that we were able to engage via social media. I explained to you all earlier that I do marketing communications for a living. So yeah, that's going to always happen.
One of the biggest things that we did ask for is that, as a council, we want accountability and transparency. That's what we actually ran on. That's what we've pushed in this community. And what our goal is with anything that we spend these taxpayers' dollars on, we want to make sure we're accountable for. So anytime we ask someone to do something, or we give out these community benefits, or we spend money, we want an accountability. We want to see results. We want to see what's actually happening and what's the next steps. So tonight we're actually going to bring a few people to talk about what's next now, the reason we had this series, and then what they're actually going to be doing next. So I'm going to have Chief Rozier speak for a few moments in reference to...
One second. Before you do that, we did want to say thank you to some of the elected officials, Bobby Powell, Mac Bernard. We had some West Palm Beach commissioners to stop by as well, Corey Nearing, Christina Lambert, Richard Rouse, the Westlake mayor, Katrina Long Robinson, the West Park mayor, Brian Johnson, and Boynton Beach Commissioner Ty Parasurga. One of the reasons why I wanted to highlight that is because of the relationships that Riviera Beach is developing, not just locally, but also in Broward County. And here are some of the pictures from the event. I'll go through them very, very quickly. But the one picture that I wanted to show you was this final picture. So this was actually the very, very first event, episode 1. And for some reason, at the end of this, some guys in some suits, I'm not going to talk about the 3 that are here, no, 4 that were here today. I heard one of them got dunked on. His last name is Evans. They decided to take off their jackets and start playing basketball in the park. And it was something that happened very organically within the community. And it was just an amazing sight to see. And so this was the final slide. I just wanted to show you what it meant to those kids, for you all to actually come into the community, show a movie, not expect for them to come to your territory, but you actually go into their neighborhoods. It was really, really impactful. I'm going to step aside, and we're going to bring up some VIPs and have them to talk about the impact as well.
The next agenda item we actually have is REI training. That's next on the list. So we're going to actually encompass all of them. First, we're going to start with actually Chief Rozier, who's just going to give some feedback in regards to community policing and what we can do.
Yes, I would just like to start with thanking Councilman Lawson and his team for putting on such a fantastic series. I think it was very relevant. It was outstanding how it was put together, and I really enjoyed it. We had some difficult topics that came up. A lot of things that happened to those kids we all know was tragic. And we had a lot of people voicing their opinion about their own experiences, and they got some great advice from some very well-respected attorneys and judges. But what I'm most proud of, we had some officers, and I thank Councilman Lawson for inviting a variety of officers, not just the police chiefs talking, but the officer who actually works the street on a day-to-day basis. We had a mixture of our community policing officers, our school resource officers, some sergeants from the shifts, and officers from the shift who gave their perspective and their point of view of their jobs and how we can combine our strengths to make things better. So I really appreciate that opportunity. I think on the police department's part, and I take this stance, I'm from the community, I grew up here. Like I tell people, there's no way I can go in Stony Brook or any other place after a call And what they got to understand, we got to make sure we're, first of all, we're safe. You know, it's a very dangerous world we all are living in now. So we tell the officers, you can't go into a situation lax because you may not get a second chance, you know. So a lot of times it may come off that the officer their firmness may be rude or whatever, but the main thing they're doing is trying to evaluate the situation and see if there is any danger, they're confronting any danger or whatever. And once they get past that point, then the officer should relax more if it's not a dangerous situation. And but you know, that's the main thing. We try to make sure citizens understand we want to go home too, you know. So, but what we try to do, the main thing is just try to interact with the community as much as possible. I know we had a previous meeting. I asked my community oriented policing Sergeant Menard, I said, give me a count of the number of activities we participated in the last year. And he told me they participated in over 140 different community events alone in 1 year. We try to go to every community event we can. I don't care if I have to go. If we don't have anybody available, I'll go. I try to make them whenever I can. We're going to get somebody there. We have our Police Explorer program where we try to mentor youth in the community and provide whatever they want to do, whether it's be a police officer or any other thing. We try to provide them guidance and encouragement in that aspect. This next month coming up, we're having our National Night Out where the whole community is invited. I think that's October 1st, which is a Tuesday, right? So we're inviting the community to come out to that so we can get to know each other better. We also have the Trunk or Treat program, which was developed by people standing right in the back of this room right now, Officer Charisma and Borm, and some other dedicated officers. And as we know, that's a big hit. The whole community come out to things like that. So the more we can interact with each other and get to know each other on a human level, I think it helps improve the whole situation. So I think we need to have more events like that, and I thank Mr. Lawson for giving us that opportunity to participate. Thank you.
Thank you.
And we have Ms. Leah Gaines, who's going to have a discussion about the actual disparity study that we've spoke about, to see if we can actually possibly have that introduced onto our next workshop.
Good evening, Mayor, Madam Chair, Commission. Leah Gaines, Center for Enterprise Opportunity. This is an extraordinary time in the history of the city of Riviera Beach. You really are on the precipice of something that's really great. And Councilman Lawson asked me to come here tonight and share this opinion and viewpoint with you to encourage you to move in a certain direction. And as you prepare to carry out the goal of Vision 2030, which focuses on building a prosperous, resilient, and sustainable economy, I want you to begin to look to a brighter and better future, one which takes a new approach from the status quo, an approach which is based on equity. That seems to be the theme this evening. This simply means taking an approach that's just and fair. This new economic growth that you're about to embark upon should include everyone, and must include action steps to ensure that that happens, that everyone has the opportunity to participate, to thrive, and to prosper. If you remember, we talked about that in the strategic planning session. So tonight I'm making a very brief presentation, but this is not a moral appeal to you. I really believe this is the only way the city of Riviera Beach can truly realize its promise. It's estimated that by 2042, it's been estimated for some years now, but certainly by 2050, the majority of the nation will be people of color. Many jurisdictions, maybe even the city now, are coming close to that mark or have already reached that mark. That's why I'm speaking to you very briefly this evening to present to you why the city of Riviera Beach should be moving towards a disparity study. What is a disparity study? In its simplest terms, a disparity study is simply a review of the city's procurement and contract results and practices to determine if there's been discrimination in the marketplace. This study is required by law to be conducted and to have findings and evidence which show discrimination prior to you implementing any race or gender-based goals on future contracts to eliminate such discrimination. The study typically determines if and to what extent there's been discrimination in the marketplace. And a consultant does this study by conducting several analyses. An analysis of prime and subcontractor and prime and subconsultant data, a review of various categories of vendors. Who are the people that are doing business with you? Contractors, professional services, etc. A review of various categories of procurement and contracts, a review of your practices, the methods for which you procure goods and services. And it also takes a look at your existing policies and practices, which you currently have in place that allows small businesses to do business with you, the city. And finally, the consultant will prepare and present a report which answers the question whether there has been discrimination in the marketplace. And if so, it presents recommendations to remedy them. Once the report is presented, a policy and program is adopted by you, the city, and then the implementation begins. Now, these policies provide an environment for business formation where there has been none. And, oftentimes people will say, well, why does Riviera Beach need to do that? There's no business there that can do business with the government. That's exactly why you need to do it. Because when you remove such barriers and obstacles, you create opportunities for businesses. But actually, the most important reason is the study is not looking at whether or not people within the confines of Riviera Beach city limits are doing business with you. It looks at where you're doing business and whether 75%, that threshold of where you're doing business, if you're doing business in a fair way with all classifications of people. So, for example, and it looks at the categories. If you're in construction and currently you're procuring 75% of your construction contracts from firms that come from a tri-county area, that's your relevant marketplace. You're not just looking at Riviera Beach. And you have to remember, when you open up these channels, those businesses also can partner and team with your local businesses so they can develop that capacity to do business with you, the city. You are an economic engine within your jurisdiction. Your taxpayers support and provide revenue to you. And so you must return those services and opportunities back to your taxpayers as well. So that's also a component, capacity building. So this policy will remove barriers which create business opportunities and increase that capacity for business growth and development. Now, where do we go from here? Quality data collection and appropriate analysis are critical to a disparity study. In order for you to create, remember I said you have to do it, it's by law, a legally defensible minority and business enterprise program. This data is what is used as the evidence for the basis for you to put goals on contracts based on race. So now, if you take a look at your record keeping and your data collection, and there have been some challenges, I want to recommend that you first, before in your pre-disparity studies phase, you begin doing that appropriate data collection and analysis. I'd like to recommend to you, really it's the state-of-the-art go-to software that's used by all jurisdictions that have these diversity programs. B2G, it's one of them, but it's the leading one. And it will also reduce the cost of the disparity study once you get to that point, where you can then engage a consultant to actually do the study. And it will track all of your awards and your payments and verify those payments in a way and put them in various categories that will automatically create that database for your consultant to come in and do a credible bona fide study. It's online, it's cloud-based. I know you have Telemunis here, but it can interface with Telemunis. And in those jurisdictions where Telemunis is used, that's basically how they use B2G, they interface it. So that's the next step that I really think is critical, that data collection and making sure you're capturing the appropriate data to begin doing the study. And I'd like to end by saying equity is a superior growth model. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that presentation. You wanted to add something?
When we come back to racial equity.
Okay.
Next topic.
All right. Any questions or comments for that item? All right. We had public comment for that item?
No, Madam Chair.
All right. Item 27.
Racial Equity Training by James Green, Palm Beach County Director of Community Services. Madam Chair, we do have public comment cards on this item. The acceptance of public comment cards on this item is now closed.
Madam Chair, if I may.
Go ahead.
I invited Mr. Green here today to speak as a continuation, as part of the series, because we want to make sure that we actually continue this discussion, continue these topics about how we can improve the quality of life here in the community. One of the things is I took the racial equity training that was actually hosted by his organization back in December, and I thought it was amazing. And I would ask, after he gives his presentation, if we could possibly have the support from the council to either workshop this or look to having our department heads and assistant department heads to take this training as well.
Thank you, Councilperson Lawson. I also took the racial equity training probably about a year and a half ago now, and I think everybody in the organization should be exposed to it. It's excellent, outstanding training. But Mr. Green.
All right, thank you very much. To the mayor, Madam Chair, Madam Vice Chair, and to the council, my name is James Green, and I'm here to emphatically support any of the city's effort to provide racial equity training for the council or the employees within the organization. But before I get into the reasons why, I want to just pause for a moment and congratulate the city for something that I deem a very significant accomplishment. Several months ago, I was talking to one of my cohorts with the Early Learning Coalition, and he shared with me a presentation in which he highlighted the city of Riviera Beach because on the average readiness rates, these VPK readiness scores for all of the cities, when you looked across the entire county for some of the largest cities that have at least 5 or more providers, every municipality, it's including Boca, Gardens, Wellington, Jupiter, all the way to Loxahatchee, the Glades, Lantana, Green Acres, Lake Worth, all of the municipalities had a decrease in their scores, with the exception of Riviera Beach. It was the only municipality where the scores actually increased. And so I thought that was a very, very significant accomplishment, and I know that members of the council, along with Dr. Deborah Robinson, has been leading an effort. I would like to think that that had quite a bit to do with the outcomes of this assessment. And so I just wanted to pause for a moment and to congratulate the city because that's where it starts. Education and making sure that our kids are able to learn is one of a key strategy towards reducing some of the disparities that we see in just about all systems. Education permeates all of these systems, and so congratulations on that. And I mentioned Dr. Robinson, who's really a champion in this work around racial equity. And we continue to organize because racial equity is realized when we eliminate racial disproportionalities so that race can no longer be a predictor of success. And when it's achieved, all communities actually are successful. So we recognize that racial inequities exist across all indicators for success, including in education, in housing, in criminal justice, in the healthcare system, with jobs, regardless of intent. We also recognize that the reality that government actually played a central role in creating and maintaining racial inequities, doing so explicitly for centuries and implicitly in recent decades via policies and practices that perpetuate these inequities, even when those policies and practices are race neutral. So I believe that government will continue to perpetuate racial inequities unless there are intentional and strategic interventions that lead to transformation. And for this reason, organizations should set goals and measures to track progress with the recognition that strategies must be targeted in order to close any gaps that exist. So we recognize that government has the ability to implement policy change at multiple levels across multiple sectors to drive larger systemic change. And this really all begins by normalizing discussions around race. And that is something that the Racial Equity Institute that it does very well. It allows individuals who go through that training to really get an in-depth understanding of how these policies and practices created some of the systems and the inequities that we see today. And so I would encourage the city to really consider taking this training and allowing its employees to take the training. And from there, you can begin to organize, as the previous speaker mentioned, looking at data and developing strategies around data. You can begin to operationalize with having action plans for the city to reduce some of those inequities. And you can institutionalize racial equity within your policies and procedures. So please understand that systems and structures that are failing communities of color are actually failing us all, economically and psychologically. Advancing racial equity is to our collective benefit. And so I encourage you to support any efforts to advance racial equity within the city of Riviera Beach. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Do we have public comment cards for this item?
Yes, Madam Chair. Marsha Guthrie.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Madam Chairperson, and City Council members. My name is Marsha Guthrie. I'm a community advocate and a racial equity trainer, as well as a racial equity learner. And my professional responsibilities, I work for the Children's Services Council here in Palm Beach County as a community planning and partnership officer. And so I just wanted to echo Mr. Green's sentiments about, and talk a little bit about why racial equity training is important. So we heard from a number of the speakers how it helps to drive institutional change and help you to organize from a policy perspective. But as a community advocate, I want to talk about what it does for communities. When we begin to have conversations that center the people who are most impacted by the issues that we talked about, as in Mrs. Price's discussions about centering the young people who had the lived experience in the movie When We See Us, we get closer to actually solving real problems. So while I agree that racial equity is important for institutional change, it is also important to advance community participation, civic engagement, and activism. And so these discussions need not only happen in these spaces, like this council meeting here in the city. We need to advance these strategies so they can happen in the homes, in the schools, and in the family systems that these community members live and reside in on a daily basis. So as a parent, I want to ensure that if we're going to have conversations about how we train city employees and how we engage our business partners and contractors to be more equitable, we're also talking to our families about what this means for them, that they're represented and centered in this discussion as well. And so part and parcel of how I enter the training is to ensure that all systems are aligned in this approach, and not just the systems who hold the power, like those of us in the room who have the opportunity to advance policy changes, but that we do that with residents in mind, and they're also a part of the process. So as you think about your overall strategy to address disparities in the systems and structures that you support in the city, I ask you to also ensure that residents are front and center in that engagement. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, that concludes public comments.
All right, any questions or comments from the board for item 27? Yes.
Yes, Madam Chair.
Go ahead.
So what I would like to do is request the support from the council to see if we can have the disparity study discussion put on our next workshop that we have scheduled. Not the one that we have currently scheduled, but the one after, immediately following that. First, and then also see if we can instruct staff to start looking into racial equity, the training for our department heads and our assistant department heads, to see if we can actually get that training done here in the community.
All right. Okay, any person who would like to speak on an agenda item, please fill out a pink public comment card located in the back of the council chambers and give it to the staff prior to the item being presented to City Council for discussion. Members of the public will be given 3 minutes to speak on each regular agenda item. In no event will anyone be allowed to submit a comment card and speak on an agenda item after the resolution is read or item considered. Public hearings, ordinance on second and final reading, item 28.
An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Riviera Beach, Palm Beach County, Florida, fixing the adjusted tax valuation of real property located within the corporate limits of the city, levying a tax on real property and tangible business personal property located within the corporate limits of the city for the fiscal year beginning on October 1st, 2019, and ending on September 30th, 2020, fixing the millage rate of 8.4520 mills thereon for said year, that the millage rate of 8.4520 is 4.75% higher than the rollback rate of 8.0689, providing a severability clause, and providing for an effective date. Madam Chair, we do have public comment cards on this item. The acceptance of public comment cards on this item is now closed.
Okay, we have a motion.
So moved.
Second.
All right, Mr. Manager.
Madam Chair, this item before you is approval of the millage rate of 8.4520 mils. This item was approved on first reading, and staff recommends approval on second and final reading. There has not been any changes.
All right, public comment cards.
Fane Losman.
Fane Losman, Singer Island.
Good evening.
As the largest landowner in Singer Island per acreage, I have a problem with 4.75% higher. Riviera Beach is supposed to be the best city to live, work, and play, and if you want to be in the top 13% of millage rates out of 38 municipalities in Palm Beach County. So you're in the top 13%. 4.75% is higher than the cost of living's gone up. Why? That's nothing to be proud of. People are still struggling out there on the west side. You're going to raise the taxes 4.75%? No, that's shameful. There's a lot of money being wasted. You know, Mr. Mayor Felder pointed out one great area of waste that hasn't been addressed, and that's CAP. CAP, the building official from CAP comes here 20 minutes a month. He's the building official at 4 other municipalities, yet we have a guy who's been here 15 years as the assistant building official who's got his certification in the summer, and we're still paying CAP. Okay, there's a lack of oversight in the city manager's office to try to control some of these costs. It's not like, oh, well, we said, let's go 4.75% higher. No. Why don't we go 4.75% lower? You guys are accountable to the taxpayers, not vice versa. No taxpayer wants to have his taxes raised. No taxpayer, if anything, you should shoot to be in the median, in the middle. You have 34 municipalities. Let's try to be in the middle. Why do we have to be at the top? We're at the top of other things. We're at the top of crime. The crime levels, we were the most dangerous state in Florida, I remember a few years back, and the 20th most dangerous state in the country. That's nothing to be proud of. Do you think we should be proud of that we paid $650,000 to the ransomware guys when they crashed our system? That's nothing to be proud of. To raise the millage rate 4.75%, that's shameful. That's nothing to be proud of. You should demand, like, no, we're not going to raise the millage rate. We want the millage rate reduced. Where do we have waste? Mayor Felder, you said CAP is wasteful, and I agree with you. Why are we paying a building official to come here 20 minutes a month when we have somebody in-house who's been here 15 years to do the job? Why? Why? No why. Okay, and that's a subject for another time. But the point is, you have not done a good job, city manager. You should have walked in here and said, hey, we're going to keep the same millage as last year. Really, that's not good enough. We're going to reduce it. You know, we've seen where we've had fraud. What was the whole $1 million scandal? We had dead people getting health insurance benefits. We've had all kind of waste and fraud, and then you come in with this? I'll talk more about in the budget, but I mean, things have gone up. The executive compensation gone up to $1,013,877,000. That's a huge rate. You guys should be ashamed. You should say no. You come back with a millage rate lower. We're not going to raise the millage rate.
Any other public
Madam
comment?
Chair, that concludes public comments.
All right. Questions or comments from the board?
Madam Chair?
Go ahead.
I would like, I voted against this at the last meeting because I believe that it's important for us to really take a serious look at the millage rate, but I would like an explanation from the city manager as to whether or not the millage rate is actually going up or is it staying the same?
Madam Chair, if I may, the millage rate has remained the same. The increases associated with the taxable value in our community increasing. So as a result of the taxable values increasing, you have seen the increase that folks will be paying a little bit more associated with the taxable value in the community increasing, but it's the same exact rate that we've adopted in previous years.
Follow-up, so the millage rate has not changed?
That is correct.
But I'm sure that in the future, we'll be looking to take a serious look at the budget to see if we can reduce that millage rate. I know that you're coming here and improving the efficiencies of many of our departments will have that result.
That is certainly a priority of ours.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Questions, comments?
Madam Chair.
Go ahead.
So I brought to the manager's attention today, I know when we talked about in the early parts of our budget workshops that we were going to take some of these items and vote on them if we had some particular interest in some of the budget items, but that didn't happen on first reading, and for those same reasons, I didn't support the budget. While the millage rate did stay the same, the tax did increase. So, it is semantics, Dr. Botel. So I certainly recognize that the rate stayed the same, but we did levy more taxes against the city overall. So, and again, those are the reasons that I won't be able to support the millage rate nor the appropriation portion of the budget.
Anyone else? Questions, comments? All right, Madam Clerk?
Councilperson Lawson?
Yes.
Councilperson Lanier?
Yes.
Councilperson McCoy?
No.
Pro Tem Botel?
No.
Chairperson Miller Anderson?
Yes.
That motion is approved with Councilpersons McCoy and Botel dissenting.
Item 29.
An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Riviera Beach, Palm Beach County, Florida, making appropriations and establishing a budget for the fiscal year beginning on October 1st, 2019, and ending on September 30th, 2020, providing a severability clause and providing an effective date. Madam Chair, we do have public comment cards on this item. The acceptance of public comment cards on this item is now closed.
Have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All right, Mr. Manager?
Madam Chair, this is second and final reading of the fiscal year 2019-2020 budget with a total appropriation of $449. There has been no modification since first reading, and staff recommends approval on second and final reading.
All right, public comment cards?
Fane Lozman, Bessie Brown.
Fane Lozman.
Good evening.
Let's talk about waste in the budget. I've been to meetings at Palm Beach County, Dade County, City of Miami, City of West Palm Beach, City of North Palm Beach. When you get checked into the building, you go through security and that's it. For the last 13 years, we've had 2 private security people downstairs check into the building. Now we have 3. We've added a new person, so when you come in and out, and you go sit down, you get wanded every time you come in and out, so we've added another person. So all the major counties and major cities in West Palm Beach, you come in the building and you're in. But yet we've added another person. Is that in the budget? That we've added another private security person to wand people needlessly in the building? We got 2 police officers and 2 people downstairs, but yet we need to waste and have another security check. That is just ludicrous. We have a high school kid who hasn't graduated high school, gets $22 an hour. Is that why our administrative costs went up to $1,013,877,000? We have 150 acres in Singer Island that could be developed, that could bring a lot of revenue into this city, but yet we're spending taxpayers' money to fund legal fees not to develop it. I mean, when Ms. Miller Anderson ran for office the first time, she came by my property at Singer Island. She said, hey, it would be great to develop. I don't care what you do over here. And that's why I supported her campaign. But she visited the property. Evans visited the property. He said, it should be developed. I talked to Ms. Lanier. She believed the property should be developed too, but now we're spending taxpayers' money so that we won't get the revenue stream from the taxes from all those submerged lands, and now we're getting ready to go into a major legal battle over that. Why? Because some people at Singer Island don't use it? The people on the west side would be happy to have that built, have that property to develop. But, I mean, when you look at what's gone on here in this budget, I agree with Mr. McCoy. I mean, there's just no accountability. It's just like, oh, $136 million, big deal. $136 million is an awful lot of money. You know, that's 13% of $1 billion that's being run through here, and it's like, we don't care. Like, we're at another security guard out front, what do we care? We're paying a 17-year-old kid $22 an hour, what do we care? We're spending however many millions of dollars targeting me, we don't care. We'll continue to retaliate against me, so I'll have a new legal action. We don't care. There is no accountability. A couple of you recognize there needs to be accountability. Mr. Lawson, you ran on accountability. There's not accountability in this budget. There isn't. You can't sign off on a $136 million budget when there's questions being brought by your other council people. It should be a 3-2 vote to bring this back and look at line by line. Because it's not your money. It's the taxpayers. It's my money. It's other homeowners' money. It's businesses' money. You have an accountability issue, and you need to take your job seriously.
Bessie Brown.
Good evening,
Good
Bessie
evening.
Brown. I have a question on page 12 in the agenda, referencing the parking fund for $400,000. I'd like to know, what is that for? What actually is that? And I also have a question on page 2, on the general public. It says unfund 3 police sergeant positions. Why are we unfunding 3 police sergeant positions? And because I would think we should need them. If we had them in there, we should have filled them. You know, and unfunding them means that we have them no more. And why is that?
Thank you.
Madam Chair, that concludes public comments.
All right. Mr. Evans, I know we kind of went over a lot of that during the breakdowns of the department. If you could just kind of reiterate what those things were.
No problem, Madam Chair. The item that is communicated in the document concerning the parking fund, that is merely a projected revenue that the city anticipates to collect when we commence the paid-for parking operation. However, we haven't developed the corresponding public policy that would accompany that. So that number is a best estimate from staff. We haven't moved forward with the discussion that the board needs to have with respect to whether residents are going to have to pay for parking, whether residents are free, where the parking meters would be. So there's a lot of end work on staff side that would have to ensue in order for that to happen. But we did place monies in the budget anticipating some revenues when we are able to get the parking operation fully up and operational. So it's a projected number. However, the corresponding policies have to be adopted in order to move that forward. The 3 vacant sergeant positions, we are unfunding those positions. Those positions have remained unfunded, and based on communications with police administration, they thought that those positions were not necessarily needed at this particular time, as there is adequate coverage on the sergeant command staff, and that money can be utilized for filling some other much-needed operational request of the department. So there would not be a impact on the ability to provide service to the community or to the officers as far as supervision.
All right, any questions or comments from the board? All right, Madam Clerk?
Councilperson Lawson?
Yes.
Councilperson Lanier?
Yes.
Councilperson McCoy?
No.
Pro Tem Botel?
Yes.
Chairperson Miller Anderson?
Yes.
That motion is approved with Councilperson McCoy dissenting.
All right, item number 30.
An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Riviera Beach, Palm Beach County, Florida, modifying and updating the city's 5-year capital projects plan for fiscal years 2019, 2020 through 2023, 2024, providing for a severability clause and providing for an effective date. Madam Chair, we do have public comment cards on this item. The acceptance of public comment cards on this item is now closed.
Okay, we have a motion.
So moved.
Second.
All right, Mr. Manager.
Madam Chair, members of the council, this is requesting authorization to approve the ordinance that's in front of you, officially adopting the capital improvements plan for fiscal year 2019, 2020, and through 2020 to 2030, or 2024. This is consistent with what state statutes requires for local governments to approve a capital improvements plan that is consistent with the comprehensive plan. Staff has went through the budget process and has provided the board the information concerning the capital improvements plan for a total capital improvements plan for the duration of the plan to be well over $343 million. At this time, staff recommends approval of the capital improvements plan.
All right. Public comment cards.
Bessie Brown.
Good evening.
Good evening.
On the general government 5-year capital projects plan for fiscal year 2019, 2020 to 23-24, on page 2, it's, I'm looking here at 2019, it says, you're going to be, I guess, doing something here on these streets. Public Works, 34th Street, Avenue F to Broadway, Public Works, Avenue E, 34th Street to Silver Beach, 34th Street to Avenue J to H, Public Works, 37th Street, and Public Works, 35th Street, Avenue J to H. Well, and then all the streets are in there but mine. 35th Street, which is a half circle, it's not even a full street, and nothing has been done on that when the other improvements were done to the street, and I would like for that to be considered in this budget year, because it's nothing, everything else around it will be done but that. And that's on 35th Street, Avenue F to Avenue H. And I really would like for you all to consider that and take care of that, because then that would be the only street that's not been taken care of.
All right, thank you.
Madam Chair, that concludes public comments.
Mr. Manager, are you able to answer, or Mr. Bailey able to answer as to why that one street is not being done?
35th Street, I believe, is, looks like it's programmed out into fiscal year 2021, but Director Bailey, if you can speak on that particular issue.
Yes, when we put that schedule together, it is in 2021. The title is pretty long because it's in a conjunction, because it's such a short street with two or three other segments, so it may not be labeled, but in the backup and in the calculations, that street is funded for 2021. She has been reminding me of that street for the last 3 years, and so I made sure that we got it in as soon as we possibly could.
All right, thank you.
So, Madam Chair, on page 2.
Which page?
Page 2 on the capital improvements plan for fiscal year 2019 to 2024, there's $2.1 million that has been set aside or identified for the street that was just communicated by the resident.
All right, thank you. Any questions or comments regarding this item? All right, Madam Clerk?
Councilperson Lawson.
Yes.
Councilperson Lanier.
Yes.
Councilperson McCoy.
Yes.
Pro Tem Botel.
Yes.
Chair Miller Anderson.
Yes.
Unanimous vote.
I will find out from the board here. It's 7:26, actually 7:28 or so. Would you like to go into public comments before we start this item 31, which is the regular item? Yes, ma'am. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Public comment should be restricted to issues, matters, and topics pertinent to the City of Riviera Beach. Please be reminded that the City Council has adopted rules of decorum governing public conduct during official meetings, which has been posted at the entrance of the council chambers. In an effort to preserve order, if any of the rules are not adhered to, the council chair may have any disruptive speaker or attendee removed from the podium, from the meeting, and/or the building if necessary. Please govern yourselves accordingly. And I just want to remind everyone to follow the clock. You will have 3 minutes, at which time, when that is up, I will ask for you to have a seat.
Madam Chair, are we not accepting more public comment cards for this section of the agenda right now, or are we going to wait till 7:30?
We'll give them a couple more minutes. We'll accept them until 7:30.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Amanda Delmont, Lloyd Brown, Rick Myers.
Good evening. My name is Amanda Delmont.
I'm approaching my 1-year anniversary at Stony Brook, and I'm so proud of what we've accomplished this past year. Our team is grateful to be part of Stony Brook's and the City of Riviera Beach's story. We are grateful to the council and the administration for their attention and assistance at Stony Brook. Recently, with Hurricane Dorian passing, I want to report that Stony Brook made it through without any damages. Our management team and the City of Riviera Beach worked together to prepare the residents and maintain constant communication with them. A big thank you to Mayor Felder, City Manager Mr. Evans, Parks and Recreation, Riviera Beach Police Department, and the Fire Department for briefing tenants on safety evacuation procedures, providing free transportation to the shelters, and all your efforts in assisting to ensure our tenants were safe during the hurricane. We quickly got back to normal after the evacuation order was lifted, and our supportive services continued. Regarding the services for the residents of Stony Brook, over the summer we had many activities. We had free lunches for the kids, weekly food pantries for the adults, which was sponsored by Summer Food Program and run by Miss Dorothy. We had adult education classes weekly, such as credit building, parenting, health and wellness, sponsored by community partners. We also held, which is my favorite, a weekly cooking class for the adults, where they can learn new recipes, cook together, and break bread together as neighbors in the community ran by Urban Youth Impact. We had 2 field trips this summer. One was a 5-day road trip with the Kids Across America program to the state of Missouri for teens to learn teamwork, life skills, and sports, sponsored by Urban Youth Impact. An educational field trip for Stony Brook kids to Peanut Island, sponsored by Friends of Riviera Beach Schools. The kids learned to float, swim, kayak, and explore the island with very informative and educated tour guides. With school starting back up, we had a book bag drive sponsored by Friends of Riviera Beach Schools, and have enhanced our after-school program from 2 days a week to 3 days a week with measurable progress ran by Urban Youth Impact. Through the next year, we will continue enhancing our youth programs, adult cooking classes, adult education classes, and everything involving our Stony Brook families for a brighter future. I understand there are many misconceptions about Stony Brook, but I want you to know we're here to stay. There's no demolition plan. I heard a lot of things about that, from locals, and I want to make sure that everybody is aware there is no demolition plan. Instead, we are still executing our major rehabilitation program, or substantial rehab project, for the 4th quarter this year. Throughout the construction, my team and I will continue to serve our residents with Millennia's highest standard of world-class service. We appreciate all the support that the board and community stakeholders have offered over the past year, and we look forward to working with the city and its awesome residents through the transformation of Stony Brook. You can also visit our social media so you guys can stay up to date and informed on Stony Brook Apartments 1.
Thank you, Amanda.
Lloyd Brown, Rick Myers, Cindy March.
My name is Lloyd Brown. I live at 1464 West 35th Street. And, I have a few pictures that I've taken because, see, the code enforcement, they like, what they do, they go out there and they pick and choose whoever they want to bother with. Because I went over on 15th Street, which is down the street from the code enforcement building. I got some pictures. I just want you to look at them. I guess you don't want me to go up there near them, huh? There's some pictures. If you look at them and you say, they shouldn't be bothering nobody. In the code enforcement department, one thing about it, what's the difference between me speeding down 95 in a raggedy jalopy and breaking the law and somebody riding down there in a Cadillac? I'm saying a man with grass and a trail in his yard, the same as a man with no grass and a trail in his yard. Because for one thing, if you breaking a rule, it doesn't matter. But see, these code enforcement people have been working in these general areas for the longest. I know one that works over here off of H, off of E Avenue. And let me tell you, if you go over there, you wouldn't believe what you see over there. But what he does, he looks over fences. But if you look at that picture I just passed you, that's right on Front Street. You don't even have to look. Yeah, and it's right down the street from the code enforcement office. Now you tell me, how can you come out of the code enforcement office, pass right by that, and then come out there and look over somebody's fence and tell them they can't have a trail in the yard, and they got 3 boats. Don't tell me that's dry dock. Come on. It doesn't make sense. And then, the code enforcement people, they get an attitude toward you, because they got one toward me, because I'm going to say what I have to say. And when the man now, he's coming back and forth, so he tells me that I got a car in the yard. I mean, you could pull up on your phone right now, there's no broken down car. If he think it is, tell him to come put his head under the front wheel, and we'll see if it's broken down. But this man been coming back, messing with me. He put a sticker on one side and one on the other side. It don't bother me, because if my neighbors are saying something to me or saying something to the people about my yard, then those aren't neighbors. Because if I got anything I don't like in your yard, I'm going to come tell you. I'm not going to go tell somebody else. And I mean, honestly, code enforcement is terrible. Okay, and there's some people that's over here on E Avenue. They said, when you people were running for election, you came over there to that pantry where they were giving out food. They said, since you've been in, they haven't seen you. They haven't heard from you. And I mean, I'm going to tell you, you're on thin ice right here. Honestly, these people are looking for something to be done in the community, you know. Oh, yeah, and one thing, they said that Iran hit this tank or whatever over here and the gas supposed to go up. Well, in my neighborhood, gas always been 20 cents up over, and nobody goes over there and say, hey, why you got gas such high prices? Or why you don't have a bathroom in the stores? Do simple things, simple stuff.
Rick Myers, Cindy March, Bonnie Larson.
I feel your pain. Rick Myers, 3620 Palm Drive, Riviera Shores. If you're not familiar with Riviera Shores, it's between Lake Park Marina and the Coast Guard Station. 50 houses, 3 roads. Last time we had any kind of improvements is, I believe, the oldest residence been 1980, and our roads are really in dire need of resurfacing. Our storm grates are metal. They go over the drains to the intercoastal and out to the sewers. They're rusted so bad that I have 3 kids, 6 years old and under. They're all under 50 pounds, and I got to keep them off from jumping around on the grates because they're going to break through. We probably got 15 kids in the neighborhood, so we put into the code and utility department to upgrade and replace the grates and try and get on schedule to do resurfacing. I know it's going to be a battle. I'll probably be here a dozen more times throughout the year, but whatever it takes, I know the money's there. It's been there for years. It's just how it's directed and how we need to get it focused in this neighborhood. We don't have a sidewalk or an easement of such, so we are literally playing in the streets. When you come out our street, come out our yard, you're on the street. In fact, we've had so many people speeding through Lakeshore because of the speed bumps. They come through our street, and even our own neighbors do it. And I've taken upon myself and a couple of our neighbors, we put our own speed bumps in, paid for it ourselves, and that has been very effective. So I would like a reimbursement, but I'm not asking for it. I will put it towards some kind of resurfacing improvement in the future. There's a lot of things we'd like to do with our old telephone poles. Or if that storm came through, we'd be done. There's 1 new pole in the whole neighborhood. So burying it underground is a whole nother issue, but right now we're just trying to get resurfacing. The aggregate is so heavy, like if a child falls, they're gonna get lacerated and road rashed, just from tripping. The roads are so bad and the drainage and everything. So that's, I mean, I've heard all night different issues, and I'm a far cry from what you guys have on your plate, but definitely want to push this to get done, and whatever you tell me what I need to do to make this happen, and I'll do it. And I'd like to hear a comment back from you in 30 seconds.
What we do is we provide comment at the end of all of the public comments. This is your time here.
I've said enough, and I can go back on a couple other clients or that have spoke on other issues, but I won't. I'll say that for another time, and and that's all we're trying to achieve.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right.
Cindy March, Bonnie Larson, Amon Israel.
Good evening, Council.
Good evening.
I'm Cindy. The words she spoke of Stony Brook sound great, but it has nothing to do with the rats in the wall. I have a niece out there with 4 kids, leaks still in the building. I would like to ask a question not to her directly, because I don't want nobody to feel intimidated by me, because I respect each and every person up in here. Do she has a residence over there in Stony Brook where she stayed 24 hours and listened to the rats. I remember when Lady March was here, she put citations on the building. A couple of the council people that was on the board, one still on the board, went and took the stickers off the board saying that it was in living condition. That's not where you all want to stay. It needs to be demolished. Whatever it takes, it needs to be demolished because you all won't want to live like that. For as code enforcement, I can agree with him because you got cold storage, build 90% of its building with no inspection. If that wasn't a violation, the whole building should have been tore down. It shouldn't have been no corrections. It shouldn't have been coming back to the city to get a new permit. You understand? After you fired Lady March. And I still have anger in me. And that's why I stayed away. Not because I felt intimidated by the police officers or Erica Davis, because I give the utmost respect. But when the truth is to be revealed, it needs to be revealed. If we don't get answers here in these chambers, we will get it down to the courthouse. The day is coming. It's public records. So let's be honest with ourselves. This is our city. This is your city. We put you all in office. And just like we can put you all in office, it's not a threat. It's a promise. We can walk to get you up out of office because we need to do better. When we know better, we do better. We must respect each other. And that's why I stayed away. Because one thing I do know, no free bracelets. I didn't never wear them, and I don't intend to wear them because I do have common sense. Okay, but you all need to do something about cold storage, you need to do something about Stony Brooks, and you need to learn to treat people the way you would like to be treated. Then we won't have all of these lawsuits. They fiercely lawsuits, and it's a long litigation. I know you all can't answer when you go to court because I have the public records. I know it's court time coming up for a lot of stuff that you all have done to Lady March, saying that she's not qualified, she didn't have her permit. When she got her GCI permit on an international level, Mr. Evans, you was not here, so all due respect to you at the time. But none of you all congratulated her. All you all did, and had one or more. Every time I turn on my news to go to work 6 o'clock in the morning, she failed the test again. She failed the test. Not one time did nobody say she passed the test. Come on, that's not how we do our brothers and sisters. You all want to talk about ethics? Let's start there. I do want to thank you. Have a great day. Be blessed when you bless someone else.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, I want to announce that we're no longer accepting public comment cards for this particular section of the agenda. Bonnie Larson, Amon Israel, Wayne Lozman.
Bonnie Larson, again.
Good evening.
I'd like to remind people, we were going to have a discussion by the council on the trip to the League of Cities, because, you know, we hear about it every year, but we never hear who went, what you did, what you learned, how that benefited the city. And also the Bahamas Regatta. I saw a sign of that on TV. It didn't look so good now. But if you could tell us how it was when you went there and what our association with them is. I've seen a lot more police on the streets. I think that's good. The lights, age-old question. Who is supposed to be watching the lights on Broadway, on our main inner streets, and also in the communities? Who's supposed to be watching that, reporting it, and who fixes those streets? There's been a lot out on Broadway recently, and just an age-old question. We never get an answer like who's responsible for noticing and fixing. So that would be good. The water bills, everybody's complaining about their water bills have gone up. Now, I know Mr. Horton did a rate study in 2018, last year. He was going to wait till he presented it. I'm wondering, has that rate increase gone into effect? Is that why all of our bills are higher, or what's the situation there? Bus benches throughout the city. Riviera Beach is the only city which I've noticed bus benches saying pregnant, need help, AIDS, etc. It's just a subtle look when you drive through our city. It just tells you something about the city. This must be a city who has these problems and needs these things. It's not good for our image. I don't see other cities that have that. Can we do anything about that? I have so many things here. We need to update our web, and I guess that would be the IT department, but again, I imagine it would be the city clerk who would tell it. We have tweets on there going back a year ago talking about the trunk or treat from last year. So we either should do away with the tweets if they're not going to be like current, or at least get rid of the ones that are a year or 2 years old. And like I said, the IT department probably handles that, but they need to be told by someone, and I'm thinking it's the city clerk's office, what to get rid of so that we are current on that. All right. I listened to a portion of the P&Z meeting today. I had an opportunity to do that. And there's an applicant, AKA Viking, who wants us to abandon the old 13th Street. What I'd like for you to do before this comes up at a council meeting is for each one of you to go look at that. It was encouraged that we abandon that. They're calling it right-of-way now instead of street, which makes it sound, diminishes the value of it. It just sounds like just a right-of-way, but it's a street, actual street. And Viking wants, of course, so they want more property there. But the thing is, go and look at it. We need that for access in and out of the marina also. And it's where we have.
Thank you, Ms. Larson.
It's where we have our overflow parking.
Amon Israel, Fane Lozman, Ernestine Gordon.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Mayor, Chair, Council, City Manager. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm here this evening to invite everyone to Yahweh's Feast of Tabernacles, which is going to be in Riviera Beach, the 4th, 5th, and 6th of November. It starts at, doors open at 6, it starts at 7. That's Friday and Saturday. Saturday during the day, there'll be some seminars. One, how to get rid of high blood pressure, cholesterol, diabetes, truly plaguing our community. There are people who will be there who can testify who overcame those issues in 30 days. Does that happen for everybody? No, but it did happen for a few, and they'll be sharing how they did that in 30 days. There will also be some seminars. One will be dealing with solar time. The other seminar will be dealing what is the true Sabbath and what it truly means. Those are seminars. Classes will be Friday, Saturday, starting at 7 o'clock p.m. There will also be entertainment. We have some world-renowned entertainers, some of the best jazz players you ever want to see, some vocalists, just some incredible entertainment. So it's something you want to attend. It's available for everybody in the community. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Shama, you see the time I left?
Yes.
Madam Chair, I think you said November, and I believe it's October.
September. I did say November?
You did, yes.
Oh, my goodness. We must be extending it. But it's the 4th, 5th, thank you very much, Ms. Botel. The 4th, 5th, and 6th of October. That's Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and it's 2831 Avenue S. I guess that'll help too. 2831 Avenue S, and that's at Jay's Ministry.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Fane Lozman, Ernestine Gordon, Margaret Shepherd.
Fane Lozman.
Good evening.
Earlier this year, I was arrested making public comments. That video was given to the state attorney's office. They reviewed that video. They issued this document that I'm going to give to the clerk for the public record saying the following: no file. I was never arraigned. They looked at the video and they said the evidence cannot prove all legally required elements of the crimes alleged and is insufficient to support a criminal prosecution. Those were the crimes of resisting officers without violence, disturbing schools, and religious and other assemblies. No file. Wasn't even arraigned. Just for the record, Madam Clerk. I do not appreciate having my First Amendment rights violated by Riviera Beach. I spent years fighting for the First Amendment, going to the U.S. Supreme Court and winning a case relative to retaliatory arrest based on my First Amendment activity. This is the second time this has happened to me. I am not going to stand here and not commit all my resources to identifying a course of action against Ms. Botel and Ms. Miller-Anderson and the city manager. Go to the Orlando Sentinel, people watching on TV, and type in Lozman, L-O-Z-M-A-N, Orlando Sentinel. You see a front page story about my track record of busting corrupt officials, getting officials arrested and removed from office. I've spent a lot of time over the last few months analyzing what's gone on between Mr. Evans, Mr. Anderson, and Ms. Botel. I called you in Madeira Beach. I told you do not come back to Riviera Beach. You should not have come back. You're going to end up destroying your career as a public servant. I am satisfied that there's been fraud and wire fraud that's gone on among the three of you. Because what you did to me, because you targeted me. You've targeted me two ways. You targeted me arresting me. My plans that I spent a fortune for my home that I brought here, 40 pounds of plans, have disappeared. In the building department for my 9,000 square foot home that we paid over $24,000 permit fee, they're nowhere to be found. Just disappeared in thin air. It's been 5 months. The Florida statute says you have 30 days, 30 working days to give me my building permit unless there's objection. We never received one objection from anything in writing. Disappeared. I'm going to leave this meeting and go to the police department and file a police report of theft. Somebody stole my plans out of the building department. Okay? I'm telling you right now, I think I have the three of you. It's my job now to convince state and federal prosecutors what I have seen. And at the end of the day, I have a hell of a track record taking down individuals that engage in misconduct. And by the way, Gagnon's investigation is complete. We're just waiting for a charging decision. And I think he's going to go down. And last question, how come nobody answered my question about wanding? Why are we still wanding people coming in here when we have two police officers in the room? I want an answer
Thank
to
you,
that.
Mr. Lozman.
Ernestine Gordon, Margaret Shepherd, Doretta Polk.
Good
My name is
evening.
Ernestine Gordon. I live in Riviera Beach. And for all the councilmen and the manager and the mayor,
Speaking of my.
good evening.
Ms.
Well, I
Gordon,
come to
pull the
present-
microphone to you a little bit.
I come to present to you tonight is that I think Ms. McCoy has an idea what I'm going to talk about on some of these things. You know the address, that 2300 on 23rd Street with all that junk and stuff around it? Mr. Coy, you saw it, and I think Ms. Motel, you saw it too, and you was out campaigning. It done got worse. And you go down Blue Heron until you get to Australia, look sharply to your right, you see all that on the back. Oh, you should have come to the front. Now that would be the icing on the cake. It's so much stuff there. You had been there so long, snakes there, and little small animals probably don't die. And mosquitoes can suck the blood out of those animals, and you know all this virus these mosquitoes are carrying. It's a health hazard. And look like nothing can be done about that. But I talked to Miss, I think her name is Miss Sherry Bose. I think she's at the supervisor over the enforcement. I spoke to her about it when Mrs. Anderson was having her classes and seemed like nothing could be done. She said her hands was tied. So I just hope y'all untie her hands up there so we can get some done, okay? I noticed that when people don't cut their lawns, you go and put a sign there, cut your lawn. And there's some 3 or 4 houses there, and they always put a sign there. But look like they just leave the one with all that garbage there. It's never a sign there, you know? And when I was out doing recall, and a lot of people were just talking that come in that area, talks about that area. And another thing I want to address there, I'll be honest with you, that stuff has been there so long. Snakes done been there. Now, they done been there so long, they probably got grandchildren. And I'll be honest with you, that's just how long it has been there. Okay, I have another thing I want to address about is that when I was out doing a recall, a lot of the people was talking about the stores there, why they stay open 24 hours. I noticed Mobile Station, they close at 10 o'clock. The little grocery store, he closed at 9 o'clock. The liquor store had closed at Monday through Thursday, they close at midnight.
Thank
Friday.
you, Miss Gordon. Your time is up. Yes.
I'm about to get to rest.
I know you're getting settled in there.
Margaret Shepherd, Doretta Polk, Dr. Janice Scott Culver.
Need some assistance there? Okay.
It's a good time.
That's one. I got it.
My name is Margaret Shepherd.
Good evening.
Good evening to the Honorable Mayor and Council. Mrs. Evans, I'm glad you're back. Thank you. I'm here. I haven't been in chamber for about 2 months. I'm still recuperating. But I want to thank you, Dr. Botel, for your kindness and generosity. Thank JB, who's went to my hometown of hers, Detroit, Michigan, for coming to the rehab to see me. I was just overwhelmed because I was very depressed. And when they came in the door, some of the aides came and said, "Who are those two white women?" And I hadn't heard that word in a long time. I looked up, I said, "Well, it's Dr. Botel." And she said, "I know who she is. I watch Channel 18. But they wanted to poke fun. And they said, is that Botox? I said, "That's Botox." And they said, "You're so pretty." So I'm just giving you the message now. Thank you. I'm here today because I did call you, Ms. Jacobs, twice. I thought Mr. Gagnon would be here. Call him 3 times. And you said, Mr. Evans, if we ever need you, call. I sit on planning and zoning. And to have our destiny send the package out a day before the meeting, I'm livid. Although it was times I couldn't come, if I could come, at least let me read my package. It didn't come. And then the last meeting on I think the 12th, I'm sitting in bed and people calling, "Where are you at?" I said, I'm here. Well, they seen me up around, but why aren't you there? I said, I did not know a meeting was even in progress. And Ms. Jacobs made a comment about some things about planning and zoning, which is true. When you don't get your package and you don't read up on it, and forgive me, I don't know I'm just learning how to text. Nothing about a computer. When Jeff was by himself, I got the package a week in advance. I assume they're staffed up. And it's insulting that if we're sitting on that board, given our time, 3 or 4 hours a day, I can't get my package, and you already know that I'm unable to really move around. So when I come and I sit here and walk out the door, I've given my time to the city. And so nobody answered the phone. Nobody. Take the message, and it's ridiculous because I keep hearing people say, "Well, I called and nobody answered." I'm like, "No, I called and they," but it's true, Mr. Evans. You mean to say you don't give the person their log of who's calling you? It could be an extreme emergency, but I'd like my package a week in advance.
Thank you,
And
Ms.
give me
Shepherd.
a chance to come out and do my due diligence. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Doretta Polk, Dr. Janice Scott Cover, Ron Davis, representing the Riviera Beach Housing Authority.
Good evening, Council.
Good evening.
And we are very glad and proud that you are back here to take care of us, Mr. Evans. Very proud. Now, over the time when we were supposed to get Dorian, the hurricane, which thank God we did not, I went and bought a supply from Home Depot, but I was unable to get it out of my car. And the next morning, there was an officer by the name of Kenny. We called him Kenny because he grew up in my neighborhood. His grandmother raised him, Torres. And he was coming by the house, and I said, "Officer, could you help me?" This officer was so kind to stop and help me get what I had in my Jeep out. And then a neighbor came, and both of them were helping me get it out. And I just want to commend, this is the type of officers that we have here, that's caring, very supportive, and I just want to commend the chief concerning this officer and commend the officer himself and many of the officers. They are very dedicated professional officers that we have in the city of Riviera Beach. The next topic that I want to talk about, Lindsay Davis. We partnership with Mount Olive Missionary Baptist Church, and they have us come over and we have lunch, and then we do interact with their senior that's in their church, and the Reverend is Reverend Waldell. He's the pastor there. Well, they're having a health workshop, and it's very, very, I think it's going to be very beneficial to every resident of Riviera Beach. The speakers are going to be Dr. Crandall, and he is a very outstanding, profound cardiologist. And he's going to be talking about the education and wellness for all the people who would like to come out. And I would like to know, it's going to be on Wednesday, October 9th at 2019 at 6:30. And I would like to know if this could be, I would like to pass this to the, if I can, the city clerk, and if it could be put on the marquees, so all the citizens of Riviera Beach will be notified and can see this and come out, because this is for the health-wise of all our citizens. And I think it's very much important education of the physical well-being of all of us. And if this can be publicized through the marquees, I think they would like that also. One other thing, concerning Mr., guess that's for another time.
Thank you.
I thank you. Again, thank you for being here to take care of us.
Dr. Janice Scott Cover, Ron Davis, Jeffrey Jackson.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
All protocols observed. Thanks for the opportunity to speak with you. I am Janice Scott Cover, and I'm here to say thank you. Thank you to the City of Riviera Beach, and in particular, thank you to Councilman Douglas Lawson for helping the Caribbean Educators Association to offset costs of our scholarship fund. On behalf of the hardworking members of the Caribbean Educators Association, the students and families who benefit, and our loyal supporters, I cannot thank you enough for your assistance to our scholarship fund. In 2005, I, along with a group of like-minded friends, got together to create an organization that would positively and significantly help our communities. That is how the Caribbean Educators Association, a 501c3 organization that we call CARE, was born. Over the past 14 years, we have provided funds to over 100 graduating students. A significant number of our scholarship recipients went to school or reside within the city of Riviera Beach. At CARE, we strongly believe that education is the key that makes the difference in a person's life. I speak from personal experience of a little girl who was born in rural Jamaica, and with the help of books and an army of people, I was able to succeed in school and to live my passion. CARE strives to do that for our young people. Once again, I appreciate you, and I am so grateful you're part of the village that is supporting our future. Incidentally, we're always looking for guest speakers at our scholarship events. So, if you are so inclined, our next scholarship event, our 2020 scholarship event, will be on May the 30th. And on November the 9th, we will be hosting an annual Taste of the Caribbean event. Your continued support is appreciated. God bless you all.
Thank you.
Ron Davis, Jeffrey Jackson, Dr. Glenn Spiritus.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, members of the City Council, City Manager. I'm Ron Davis, and I'm here on behalf of, to make comments regarding the Riviera Beach Housing Authority. I am an affordable housing development consultant to the authority, and as you know, the authority has been working hard to reestablish itself. Having lost its position to HUD several years ago, we were rebuilding. We're just completing our Hair on the States project, which is an excellent project for affordable housing of seniors and families in the city of Riviera Beach. And we're now focused on providing workforce housing affordable in the city of Riviera Beach and to continue our plans. One of the things that I want to bring to your attention is that we, through the Executive Director, John Hurt, has made a request to the city to revisit the city's policy on disposing of city-owned properties. And what we're trying to do is to have some access to those properties. Right now, your policy allows the Riviera Beach City Community Redevelopment Agency to receive properties at transfer at no cost. The Riviera Beach Housing Authority is not considered in that policy. Now, most of you know, I spent at least 25 years managing cities around the country. And every city that I managed, there was also always a reciprocity between the city government and its housing authority for the purpose of supporting affordable housing. I think that's appropriate here at Riviera Beach as well. The Riviera Beach Housing Authority does not have any property. It does not have any money to buy property. The city of Riviera Beach has several parcels of property that can be productively used for affordable housing, for senior housing, for workforce housing. And we'd like for you to consider the policy change that Mr. Hurt and the Board of Commissioners at the Housing Authority have forwarded to you. It only makes one change. It is that it adds a phrase to say, where it says that the concerning Community Redevelopment Agency can receive properties at no cost from the city. We're also asking that the Riviera Beach Housing Authority be included in that policy statement, thereby allowing us to access properties with your support and transfer to the Housing Authority to pursue our agenda of and our mission to provide affordable housing. We think it's a reasonable request. I, as a practitioner of many years, think it's a very reasonable request, and I'm only asking this board to consider that. That document is in the hands of the city manager and most of you. I think Mr. Hurt sent that via email several weeks ago. We're in a position now of trying to move forward to provide and get some plans approved, and we're under some time-limited guidelines for Florida Housing Finance Corporation to be able to do that. So we ask that you expedite your review of this, and so that we can then consider the properties to be transferred if you so choose. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Jeffrey Jackson, Dr. Glenn Spiritus,
Good
Doretha.
evening.
Good
Jeffrey
evening.
Jackson, 1108 Cernstone Lane. Basically, Mr. Davis has said everything that I would say, and I would just remind you guys that we came before you some time ago and set some lofty goals. Some development out on Congress was stagnant. We told you that we would see that through and a building would rise. That has happened. Basically, everything we've told you we would do has been done. Soon you'll be receiving an invitation to come out and celebrate our grand opening. We'll break ground on Phase 2 shortly to add another 79 units of affordable housing. We have some lofty goals. I am confident we can achieve them. We do need your help in doing so. Basically the Housing Authority needs site control. That's our issue. We need site control, and when we can do that, we can accomplish everything. Anything we put our minds to, and again, like I said, we have some lofty goals, and I want you to help us achieve them. Thank you.
Thank you.
Dr. Glenn Spiritus.
Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. City Manager. Welcome back to Riviera Beach. Mr. Mayor, City Council members, I'd just like to start, and I'm going to reiterate what my two colleagues just said. But first I want to thank you for Hurricane Dorian and the communications you had with the Singer Island community. Stark difference compared to Hurricane Irma. We all appreciate it, especially Councilwoman Botel, thank you for your direct communications, and the other city officials. Thank you for doing a great job. We all appreciate that. Now, with the Housing Authority, I'm a member of the Housing Authority Board as well. I've worked, most of you know, I've worked in other communities where my job was developing affordable housing. This is not a new thing. Other housing authorities have agreements with their municipalities where surplus properties are turned over to the Housing Authority for affordable housing development. This Housing Authority has proven its ability to have success. Heron Estates, wonderful project, 101 units of senior housing. We're about to break ground now on additional 79 units of workforce housing, affordable housing. Just wonderful. They have we have, I should say, a wonderful goal of trying to build 200 more units. I think we could probably do 500 more units, because this community can certainly use it, of workforce housing. Your cooperation will be greatly appreciated, and I don't think that you'll be sorry if you turn this over to the Housing Authority, who works, I should mention, we have an agreement where we work very closely with the CDC and the CRA. Would be a great thing to put us all under one umbrella and let us all work together and try and solve this housing issue that we have here in Riviera Beach. Thank you for giving us consideration.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Dorothea, Dr. Philip Dukes, Chanel Gordon.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Dorothea, and I'm here to speak on the project in Riviera Beach on Avenue M in the area that I live. And basically is because the people there or the group of people, I'll say the group of people there, they have no respect for us as residents. Because to drive 45 minutes every day back and forth to work and to know I work 10 hours a day to come home and to find my driveway blocked by construction workers that look at me as if like I need to go find somewhere to park. And they have damaged my car in the past, which I have mentioned it, and now today the same thing. They have damaged our property by just breaking in our gates that are locked just to have access without leaving any letters, any notes on doors to let us know that this construction is going on in our area, and that the area that I live in front of my door, if it's going to be blocked that day, so I can make some type of arrangement, there's like nothing. And the workers that are there, they're very disrespectful. They have no respect when you ask them certain questions about what's going on and why aren't we addressed that this issue, that actually not issue, but that you guys are out here on a construction project, that we have no idea that this is going on a daily basis or when it's going to happen, and to know I come home and here it is almost 6, 7 o'clock at night and I can't get in my driveway. That's unacceptable. I mean, I'm not the only one, I'm sure, that feels this way. And again, like I said, that it seems as if no one have addressed these to the workers because the same thing, they have no respect for us. And I don't see Riviera Beach workers out there, it's other workers out there, and they have no respect that they're on Saturdays. Who wants to have a construction worker out there on a Saturday wake you up 6, 7 o'clock in the morning when you've worked all week? That's unacceptable. So all I want to know when and why we don't have notices on our doors or in our mailboxes on a regular basis that this is going on. We deserve respect, and we deserve to come home to peace and quiet after a long days of work and a long drive. Thank you.
Thank you. And I believe Mr. Bailey is back there in the back. He'll have a word with you.
Dr. Philip Dukes, Chanel Gordon, Mary Bram.
Dr. Philip Dukes,
Good
1239
evening.
West 23rd Street. Council, City Manager, Mayor. Our event on the 28th of this month is canceled because on the 24th, I got to do a procedure, little minor thing.
Pull your mic over a little bit. I don't know what's wrong. Your microphone, pull it over a little to you.
Can you hear me? Am I talking soft? That's
Yes.
unusual. I had to cancel because I'm going to be doing the procedure on the 24th. But we're going to reschedule for Cunningham Park. And I want to thank Mayor Felder for his support. I want to thank Kashamba Anderson Miller for her support, and Dr. Botel for her support in the past. And I hope other city council will support our grassroots movement. Operation Restore is a 3-part program: community mentoring, Black world history education, and we do music. The little group that you met last time you were there, Dr. Botel, the little boy that you spoke to, well, he's starting writing, and they got their name. They call themselves Fly Kids Squad, and they're doing a rap called "You Can't Make Me Cry." It's a bully song. Most of you know I'm a professional songwriter. In the 80s, yes, I was Rick James Jr. That's why I got in all that trouble. But in this program, we're pushing it now. So I'm asking you to support us. We teach kids, I believe in directism and zero tolerance. We teach kids how to come out of thug life. And you have to have something replace, give others to replace, but you still got to have a zero tolerance in the minds of kids that this is not the way to go. So I'm asking you to support us as we go forward. Also, we're going to be having different contests where we're going to be giving away $150 shopping sprees at these events. And we offer music lessons, drums, bass guitar, piano. You can contact us at area code 561-827-7499. You can, our mailing address is Operation Restore, P.O. Box 10111, Riviera Beach, Florida, zip code 33419. And our city manager, we're so happy that you're back, man. Now, we was picking at you a few nights ago because we were watching the 5 Heartbeats. And if you watch the 5 Heartbeats, they were battling with this one group. And the other, they call him the pretty guy. He was up there saying, you can't be breaking my heart. And the guy say, hey, Dukes, don't he look like Jonathan Evans? And he does. Same kind of haircut. Same tone. And we just bust out laughing. And no, we wasn't smoking weed. But it was so funny. I said, yeah, he looked just like him, man. So I hope you guys support us because we believe that Riviera Beach is supposed to be the example of what we need to do in the black neighborhoods and also to bring people together. And I'm going to be sharing more of this vision with you about our building walls because Steve West is also working with us. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Chanel Gordon, Mary Bram.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. My name is Chanel Gordon, as was stated. And on behalf of the Board of the Friends of Riviera Beach Schools, it is my pleasure to accept this generous donation of $2,800 from Councilwoman Botel. These funds will be used to provide educational enrichment programs for the children of Riviera Beach. Learning is best served when children actively participate in the process. By exploring the world, children see the connections between what is happening within the confines of their classrooms or homes versus what is happening in the real world. Through enrichment opportunities we provide, the Friends of Riviera Beach Schools, children in the community are able to access tools and environments that may not be available within some homes. These experiences transfer into the classroom where children make connections between text and their own real-life experiences, increasing their chances of academic success. Furthermore, our children will become well-rounded individuals with a profound understanding of the world, which is a mission of the Friends of Riviera Beach Schools. Dr. Botel, we thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mary Bram.
Is that the last one, Ms.?
That is, Madam Chair.
All right.
Oh, good evening.
Good
Board,
evening.
City Manager, Mayor. You know, a lot has been said. I've had some long days here, so, but I'm glad to be here in this setting here. Comments were made about Wi-Fi and all of that's spewing out. If that was the case, everybody that sat up on the boards there would have been in handcuffs. Glad to have you back, City Manager Mr. Evans. We will continue to fight and rally for the good of this city, not just for the residents, as well as some of the good employees. It is some good, as well as some bad. That's in everything. But we will continue to move forward. Cap was here in this city before you all came. Some games was played with some of the hiring that was previous. So don't be alarmed by all of this. We are not alarmed by it. Stakeholders, Ms. Bram and other officials, we are stakeholders in Stony Brooks. When I stand here and tell you that Stony Brooks will be that idol that Ms. Bram and everybody else have pushed for, it will. Guess what? Ms. Bram got some calls. It's on the docket in Tallahassee. We will move it forward. And I attend those meetings there. I think that Amanda's sitting here too. She know I attend those meetings there. And I engaged in that community. And I engage others to become part of that community because I know that Stony Brooks can be that idol in our community. We have to have housing, one way or the other. Stole plans. Who want to steal some plans? If anybody have them, please give it to them. Yeah. When they see us, that community conversation is viable. It's for the safety, the infrastructure, the economics, the schools. See, it goes deeper than just that injustice, because besides that injustice, all of those things there helps move this city here forward here. I hope and pray that leadership will leave this place here better for the generation that will come after us, so they will see some of the good works and some of the implementations that good people that desire to be good leaders can do for this city here. Aren't you tired of bickering? Hell, Miss Bram says she don't bicker, she just put on a hat and she go into battle for the good things.
Thank you, Ms. Bram.
So continue. Thank you.
All right. Mr. Evans, do you have any answers for any of the questions that were posed?
I do, Madam Chair. With respect to the gentleman's concerns about Riviera Shores and the grates and the resurfacing, we will have staff on site to survey the issue and then report back accordingly, and then reconcile it to see if it is articulated in the capital improvements plan, and make sure that we communicate that with the residents. In the event that that's not the case and we find that there's some concerns, we can then bring back something that modifies the capital improvements plan to add in a project to address that if the road is in poor condition. With respect to the Florida League of Cities presentation, the board was anticipating to make that presentation this evening, but because of the length of the agenda, the presentation was postponed, and the board will be making that presentation most likely at the first meeting in October, which is October 2nd. The lights that are on Broadway, those are the responsibility of the city to maintain, the decorative lights. Staff surveys those on a monthly basis, but in the event that we hear about any lights being out, we will get those issued cured immediately. There's also been some conversations and discussions with respect to increased water bills. That is attributable to the radio read meters that are giving more precise readings. However, staff is going through some of the readings and doing a cursory review to make sure that there's no issues or some concerns with respect to the meters. We're also seeing situations where there potentially could be leaks, or there is some flaws in some installation issues. So when people identify those issues with us, we make it a point to go out to the site and identify what the issues are. If it is an issue that is related to the installation or something on the city side, we certainly take the corrective measures to be able to resolve that. So if anyone does have some concerns, we ask that you contact our customer service line at our utility district, and then we will send crews out there to go ahead and address that. With respect to the bench ads in our community, that's something that we can reach out to the entities that service that, because most cases they work with an ad agency, but I've seen where municipalities put in place where they have first right of refusal to either advertise on those benches themselves or monitor the type of advertising that's occurring. So my office will make it a point to make contact with whomever the entity is and see if there's a possibility where the city can possibly do some joint advertising and take over the ads that are in there to advertise the benefits of our community. With respect to the tweets and social media, that is something that as we add additional staff to the communications function, they will be responsible for social media and marketing and promotions from the city. So both for the immediate needs, we'll make sure that we get that addressed and get that cured. Ms. Gordon spoke about the property that has stored items in their property. I believe that particular parcel is going through the code enforcement process. Also, another thing that we'd like to talk with the board in a more holistic conversation about the nuisance abatement program and how we can take more aggressive roles to address those nuisance properties in our community. From my last research concerning the nuisance abatement process, it lacked a lot of the proverbial teeth necessary to go ahead and correct those issues. It was also communicated about the planning and zoning packets and the notifications. We'll get that cured with staff. That shouldn't be an issue. And we will make it a point to notify Officer Torres and thank him for helping our residents. That's, common for a lot of our staff. They definitely go beyond the call of duty to assist our residents in every capacity. The notification about the health event that's occurring, unfortunately, that's not something that we can market on the marquee, because if we do it for one, invariably we'd have to do it for a lot of other entities, but it's something that we can look at in the future of having a bulletin board at certain city facilities. That's a community board where we can put information on there so people can see what's going on. So that's something that we can certainly look at. The meeting with the Housing Authority, one of the items that I will be asking the board later on this evening is to see if the board will be amenable to changing your September 28th workshop to October 5th, and also allowing for staff to make modifications to the agenda to incorporate a presentation from the Housing Authority specific to the item that they are requesting for the board to consider. So that will be something that you will provide me direction on later on this evening. And the concern about the project on Avenue M, Director Bailey has made contact with a resident in the back of the room and will take the necessary steps to cure the communications issues. And that concludes the comments that were articulated during citizen comments, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Regular item number 31.
A resolution of the City Council of the City of Riviera Beach, Palm Beach County, Florida, authorizing the mayor to execute the sovereignty submerged lands easement between the City of Riviera Beach and the State of Florida Bureau of Public Land Administration for the 14-inch potable water main supplying water to Singer Island. Madam Chair, we have a public comment card on this item. The acceptance of public comment cards on this item is now closed.
All right, we have a motion.
So moved.
All right, Mr. Manager.
Madam Chair, if I can have Senior Utilities Engineer, Mr. John Armstrong, make this presentation.
You need it up on the screen, just press that button.
Thank you. Thank you. Good evening, Madam Chair, Councilwoman, Councilman, Mayor, City Manager. This item is basically to renew a submerged land agreement with the state of Florida. As you know, the city's drinking water plant is nearby here on the mainland, and it provides potable water for irrigation and fire protection also for Singer Island and town of Palm Beach shores through 2 potable water mains that cross the intercoastal waterway. And the Lake Worth Lagoon is a submerged land, state land, and sorry about that. We have 2 potable water mains that cross the intercoastal waterway, also known as the Lake Worth Lagoon, which is a submerged state lands. One of them is located along Blue Heron Boulevard, and the other one is located further north, as shown in red in the screen. It's just about a block south of Silver Beach Road on the western side, and it goes eastward, serving the island near Gulfstream Way in the back lot easement of Gulfstream Way. And so since that submerged state land easement just expired earlier this year. It was for a term of 30 years, and so this renewal would be for a term of 50 years. So as potable water service is needed for the island, I recommend council approve the resolution authorizing the mayor to execute the agreement with the state of Florida.
Madam Chair.
Oh, sorry.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
So just one observation. I was looking at the resolution, so it is an agreement, correct? Because the resolution doesn't make mention that it's an actual agreement. It says execute the easement. So is it essentially we're executing the easement agreement? Okay, that's my only concern. I guess if it's clerical in nature, that it can just be corrected, because the backup references prior agreements, but it didn't really speak that it's a specific agreement. It says execute the easement. So that's all I have, Madam Chair.
The easement is sort of like an agreement. It doesn't say it's an agreement, but it is, it says where the state of Florida Department of Environmental Protection would be granting an easement to the city of Riviera Beach, and it will be, and the requirement is a template form, has template conditions, including construction, things like that, which is not applicable for all submerged state land agreements. And so I don't know how to answer that question. They don't call it an agreement, but technically I would say,
Okay.
correct, it is sort of an agreement.
Okay, thank you.
All right, any other questions? Public comment cards?
Fane Losman.
Thank you. We'll have public comment cards for a minute.
Thane Losman.
Good evening.
For the record, the city manager on 2 occasions did not address why we were wanting people after 13 years. And we have a police chief, another police officer, and 2 people downstairs. So that was not addressed, for the record. The gentleman just said that the lagoon are sovereign submerged lands. That's not true. A portion of the lagoon are sovereign submerged lands. The portion in that picture on the north side of Pine Point Road, all the way up to MacArthur Park, are privately owned. 75 of those acres, I and my friends control. That means we control it all. We control it all the way down the center of the earth. Why is that significant relative to this water main? Because believe it or not, there is a utility, electric, that runs across private properties that there's no easement for. So we're going to go out there one of these days, start driving. There's been some pilings driven already, and we're going to drive some more pilings out there in the submerged lands, on our private submerged lands. And if we hit your little water pipe, because I see it comes up that way, but it may cross over and make a direct cut over to the water thing, or we hit electrical thing, it's like, sorry. You know, where is the easement for those items? The easements don't exist. You know, things were put in years ago. I think people felt that that property, those submerged lands were owned by the state, but they weren't. The state sold them to the public in 1924, including everything west of Ocean Drive and north of the bridge was sold by the state. So all those like little canals and all, those were all privately owned submerged lands that were filled in with dirt from the intercoastal waterway. So all that in the middle of the island to the left side, to the west, was all owned by the state that was sold, that's now privately owned. Okay, so the records that they had for a lot of this stuff are pretty lousy. And, you know, when I looked at that pipe, it's like, where's the rest of that pipe go? Does it go due east? Does it keep going northeast? You know, where does it go? But no one can stop us from driving pilings in the bay. We want to go out there and drive a few pilings, no one can stop us. You know? So you're going to be surprised. There's going to be lots of things going on. You just think we're going to roll over and spend millions of dollars and we're going to do nothing because Botel's going to sit there and whine about it. Wrong. We're going to drive pilings. We're going to build stuff. I'm going to encourage people to make that Hong Kong harbor. All those derelict boats, we'll put registrations on them. We'll drag them all onto our properties. Why not? You can't stop boats that are registered from anchoring on our submerged land. They may not be the prettiest boats, But as long as they're registered and have a sanitation device, there's nothing you can do about it. Do you really think, when you look at the resource that my friends and I have, that we're just going to let this, you're just going to take away our private property? It's not going to happen.
Madam Chair, that concludes public comments.
All right, any questions, comments from the board? All right, Madam Clerk?
Councilperson Lawson?
Yes.
Councilperson Lanier?
Yes.
Councilperson McCoy?
Yes.
Pro Tem Botel?
Yes.
Chair Miller Anderson?
Yes.
Unanimous vote.
Item 32,
A resolution of the City Council of the City of Riviera Beach, Palm Beach County, Florida, authorizing the creation and establishment of a citizen surtax oversight committee for the purposes of reviewing the city's program as it relate to the City Hall Complex project identified by the City Council as part of the adopted surtax plan, providing for an effective date. Madam Chair, we do have a public comment card on this item. The acceptance of public comment cards on this item is now closed.
all right, motion?
So moved.
All right, Mr. Manager?
Madam Chair, this item before you is to approve the resolution that effectively establishes the City Hall complex as the sole surtax project, and then directs the city manager to proceed forward with creating an application for citizens to serve on the surtax Citizen Oversight Committee. What staff's intention is to do is to set up the formula and the application to attract, market, and promote individuals to serve on this, to bring the applications back at a subsequent meeting for your approval, and then to begin the process of allowing for each of the elected officials to select members to serve on that committee. Concurrently, we will be drafting the sales tax, or the surtax plan for the committee to understand what the nuances of and what the intention is behind the plan, but obviously that will have some additional work with the council to identify some elements in the plan to make sure that we move forward accordingly. So this is merely the housekeeping resolution to identify the City Hall project, and then for the city manager to move forward with creating the application process for individuals to serve on the committee, and then concurrently, we will work on the actual plan and then bring that forward to you for formal adoption. And staff recommends approval of the resolution before you.
Okay, we'll go to the public comment.
Mary Bram?
Good evening, board, again, Miss Mary Bram.
Good evening.
Riviera Beach. Apparently, when this was brought up, I believe it was last month or so, I know that Ms. JB and myself, we dived into this because we want the most qualified geniuses that have that superlativeness, that understands about finances, and investments, and things that we do as the calibration to achieve the goals that is set with this 1 cent for a 10-year span. We're already in 2 years of it already, so you do have some limitations, there already, because you didn't move on it. This is what happens all the time. You have 23 million for infrastructure, residents, investment, residents, repairs, residents, renovations, and improvements to City Hall. So residents, the reason that I said call your name out, because this impacts you deeply. In order for the ones that you will select to sit on this board here, and nobody's system parlaying, because this is what has gotten us into the predicament that we are in today. Because we do not step out of that box and get that skill set and that in-depth knowledge of what you need in order to build up your city and move your city. You'd rather get somebody to see whether or not they can get their hands in the pie. But no, we have to move beyond that. I also would like to say, residents, Ms. Bram, I'm going to throw you this kiss. This is my signature. You thank me so much, but I love you seniors and I love you residents. So whatever Ms. Bram always do, she does it from her heart, and she does it for the good of the entire community. She takes nothing. She wants nothing. only the best to come from within each individual. And this $23 million here, we have to set the course here, that we're not going to backpedal on the things that we need to do. We are long overdue for a city hall. We are long overdue. Whichever way that it may go, let it be new. Bring some newity in this city here and incorporate our infrastructure. I said it before. Our infrastructure is terrible. Our buildings are crumbling left and right. So go ahead, I'll move the budget. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Brown. All right, questions or comments from the board? All right, Madam Clerk?
Councilperson Lawson.
Yes.
Councilperson Lanier.
Yes.
Councilperson McCoy.
Yes.
Pro Tem Botel.
Yes.
Chair Miller Anderson.
Yes.
Unanimous vote.
Item number 33.
A resolution of the City Council of the City of Riviera Beach, Palm Beach County, Florida, approving an interlocal agreement between the Board of County Commissioners, Palm Beach County, Florida, and the City of Riviera Beach, Florida, accepting funding in the amount of $235,401 for the continuation of reentry services from October 1st, 2019 to September 30th, 2020, authorizing the Director of Finance and Administrative Services to set up a budget for the same, and authorizing the Mayor and City Clerk to execute the agreement and providing for an effective date.
Have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Manager?
Madam Chair, we do not have any public comment cards on this item. The acceptance of public comment cards on this item is now closed.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, if I could have Justice Service Center Director, Mr. Ori Bullard, present this item.
All right, good evening.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and Council. My name is Ori Bullard. I'm the Director of the Justice Service Center, and we've been operational here in the city since 2007. And so what you have before you here is just a resolution accepting the continuation of services and funding from Palm Beach County Public Safety. And so we've operated providing services to over 1,200 men and women that have been released from incarceration throughout the state of Florida and returning back to our communities.
All right.
So I can take any questions if you all have any.
All right, any questions or comments from the board regarding this item? All right, thank you, Mr. Bullard.
Thank you.
All right, Madam Clerk?
Councilperson Lawson.
Yes.
Councilperson Lanier.
Yes.
Councilperson McCoy.
Yes.
Pro Tem Botel.
Yes.
Chair Miller Anderson.
Yes.
Unanimous vote.
Item 34.
A resolution of the City Council of the City of Riviera Beach, Palm Beach County, Florida, approving a contract with ACOM Technical Services in the amount of $149,235.30 to conduct the Parks and Recreation Master Plan, RFP 95218-3, and provide an effective date.
Have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Madam Chair, we do not have any public comment cards on this item. The acceptance of public comment cards on this item is now closed.
All right, Mr. Manager?
Madam Chair, if I can have Recreation, Parks and Recreation Director, Mr. Richard Blankenship, present this item.
Good evening, Council. Richard Blankenship, Parks and Recreation Director. This is a pivotal moment in Parks and Recreation for the City of Riviera Beach. We're excited to bring this contract to you, and I can answer any questions that you may have.
All right. Questions or comments for Mr. Blankenship? All right, none at this time. Thank you, Madam Clerk. Thank you, Ms.
Councilperson
Blankenship.
Lawson.
Yes.
Councilperson Lanier. Yes. Councilperson McCoy.
Yes.
Pro Tem Botel.
Yes.
Chair Miller Anderson.
Yes.
Unanimous vote.
Item 35, thank you.
A resolution of the City Council of the City of Riviera Beach, Palm Beach County, Florida, authorizing the contribution of District 1 neighborhood sector funds in the amount of $45,000 for the replacement of Timber Pine Park Playground, project number 18091, and provide an effective date.
Have a motion?
So moved.
Second? All right, Mr.
Madam
Manager?
Chair, we do not have any public comment cards on this item. The acceptance of public comment cards on this item is now closed.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, if I can have Richard Blankenship, Director of Parks and Recreation, present this item.
Good evening again, Council. Richard
Good
Blankenship. This is the first playground in the Make an Impact Foundation, United Way, and TV12's commitment to the city to replace 4 playgrounds. Councilman McCoy is willing to donate some of his sector funds, and this item is providing authorization to do that. Assuming this is done, we will more than likely install the playground in a public volunteer opportunity at the end of October.
All right, any questions or comments from the board? All right, thank you, Madam Clerk.
Councilperson Lawson.
Yes.
Councilperson Lanier. Councilperson McCoy.
Yes.
Pro Tem Botel.
Yes.
Chair Miller Anderson.
Yes.
Unanimous vote.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item 36,
A resolution of the City Council of the City of Riviera Beach, Palm Beach County, Florida, authorizing the Director of Finance and Administrative Services to transfer $90,000 from the Fleet Surplus Revenue Account to account number 500-301-0455-2002, Public Works Fleet Fuel, and provide an effective date.
do we have a motion?
So moved.
Do we have a second? All right,
Madam
Ms.
Chair, we do not have any public comment cards on this item. The
right.
acceptance of public comment cards on this item is now closed.
Mr. Manager?
Madam Chair, if I can have Interim Public Works Director, Mr. Bailey, present this item.
Good evening.
Terrence Bailey, Public Works Director. As I am sure you all know, the price of gas fluctuates wildly due to socioeconomic and world events. It is difficult with an operation of our size to project exactly the fuel spend over the course of 12 months. We needed a little bit extra funding to get through to the end of the year, and this is a funding supplement for fuel only, which supplies fuel for all the vehicles throughout the whole city and only city vehicles.
All right, questions or comments from the board? All right, thank you. Madam Clerk?
Councilperson Lawson.
Yes.
Councilperson Lanier.
Yes.
Councilperson McCoy.
Yes.
Pro Tem Botel.
Yes.
Chair Miller Anderson.
Yes.
Unanimous vote.
Item 37,
A resolution of the City Council of the City of Riviera Beach, Palm Beach County, Florida, authorizing the purchase, delivery, and installation of a portable building to house the temporary operations of Fire Station Number 2 and a portable restroom shower combination in the amount not to exceed $40,000 each, authorizing the expeditious relocation, demolition, and reconstruction of the existing Fire Station Number 2 structure, authorizing the city manager or designee to approve and execute contracts in accordance with federal, state, and local procurement codes as necessary for relocation, demolition, and reconstruction services for Fire Station Number 2, authorizing the city manager or designee to approve change orders up to 10%, authorizing the Director of Finance and Administrative Services to make payment for same from project number 18034 and provide an effective date.
you have a
So
motion?
moved.
Second.
All right,
Madam Chair, we do not have public comment cards on this item. The acceptance of public comment cards on this item is now closed.
All right, Mr. Manager?
Madam Chair, if I can have Interim Public Works Director, Mr. Terrence Bailey, present this item, and I believe Interim Fire Chief John Kurd will assist as well.
All right. I think he left
Looking
you.
for that assist after the meeting.
Left you hanging.
As you're all very well aware, we've been working on Fire Station 88 at Barracuda Bay for a number of years. Site plan came through about 6 months ago. This is an item we're advancing in order to expedite the relocation of the operations of that fire station into a temporary location while we demolish the fire station and advance construction. Here to answer any questions that you may have.
There's your assist.
Madam Chair, if I can have Chief Kurd speak to the operational changes that have occurred at Fire Station 2 since I believe this started this week.
Yes, sir.
Good
Good evening,
evening.
Council, Mayor. As of last Friday, we've moved out of Station 88. That station has now been shut down, and we've relocated operations over to the Public Works building. Currently, at this time, we are manning that station in that zone throughout the day. 2 firefighters are remaining at night, while we have 1 unit moving out west for sleeping quarters and facility needs. The need for the build-out of this station is important. We have little to no facilities out there, no awnings to protect the apparatus, no storage. So I would recommend that we approve this item so we can start, building out that station.
Madam Chair, also, if I can add some additional comments to this agenda item. There's one piece of equipment that is necessary to be able to provide the coverage necessary to house some of our vehicles. This particular shade structure, for lack of better terms, is approximately $140,000. We've looked at all different types of alternatives. We're looking at some options to be able to move forward in getting this done quicker. So we're going to have subsequent discussions with legal about the possibility of bringing something before the council to consider the opportunity to waive some of the procurement processes so we can effectively get the awning to cover our apparatus, because if we go through your traditional procurement process, we're looking about 4 to 6 months, what have you, where our vehicles will be under inclement weather, and our firefighters would have to exit the facility to be able to go into the restroom facilities and those types of things. So we're looking at ways to expedite that particular item, as it is an important component of the overall reconstruction of the new station. Another item that we would like for the board to consider in subsequent discussions, looking at demo contractors or contracts that are already been executed with the county. They have a list of qualified vendors. They have gone through a extensive procurement process, and if we are able to effectively look to piggyback on one of the contracts that the county may have in place, we can move forward with demoing that facility a lot quicker and move forward with vertical construction. So it's just something for the board to consider. We would really like to see the demo of this facility occur as quickly as possible and us start going forward with vertical construction. My concern is that if we go through some of your traditional processes, you're looking at maybe about a year where you're moving dirt to start going vertical, where we want to really start moving things by the first of the year at the latest. So there's some benefits associated with looking at the contracts and the agreements that the county has. It's not a decision that you have to make this evening, but I did want to tell the board that we may bring forward some other options for you all to consider. Once we look at the county's contracts, we look at how they were appropriately vetted, so we can move forward with a quicker demolition process. But also, one of the things you may see at your next meeting in October is authorization for us to proceed forward with securing the awning, so we can have that constructed concurrently with the modifications that will have to happen on the public works site, so our fire staff can be and our fire apparatus can be safe and secure. And it's, of course, built up to code. The city of West Palm had a similar type of design when they were constructing one of their stations. So staff is recommending approval of this item with the understanding that subsequent conversations and items may be coming before you within the next couple of weeks.
Mr. Evans, may I add, council, please understand this is going to be our home for the next 2 years. We got to try to make this as functional as possible for our firefighters. While conditions are going to be difficult, we want to make them as accommodating as possible. This is where they live. This is going to be something that is going to be a long-term investment for the city. And when I say long-term, I'm talking that 2 years or so in order to get this new station built. So please take that into consideration as we're talking about building out this facility for our firefighters.
Madam Chair.
Go ahead.
So when we get to this station on Singer Island, we'd be able to repurpose this, possibly.
The intent was the portable bathrooms, portable. The sleeping quarters, portable. There'll be some other logistical concerns with not having the building, but yes, that was the intent, was to repurpose all of this as many times as we need throughout the city, not just for fire stations.
And to the chief's point, also having that portable restroom facility gives us the opportunity when we have events or programs to be able to deploy that as well. And, you know, in a situation where if we get hit with, I won't use the word, but one of those storm events, you have the ability to have a portable shower that if you wanted to open up an area that to provide an opportunity for people to utilize, you have that capacity. So it's a value to us as an organization moving forward in this direction.
All right, any other questions or comments?
Madam Chair.
Go ahead.
So the demolition and moving, it's not encompassed in the resolution, but the backup sheet says it. So who does the demolition in?
The demolition has not been identified yet. But what we are going to do is we're going to go through, we have our standard procurement process, but we're also going to look at what the county has done because they have a list of pre-qualified vendors, they have existing contracts, and there may be an opportunity to effectively piggyback off a county contract so we can get the demo contract in here sooner rather than later, because our process will be pretty lengthy from, the procurement process, then, the vetting, and then the contract, and then going ahead and moving forward with it. And so our concern is obviously every day that goes by, the time for construction costs go up. In addition to, I think it sends a clear and distinct message that I think this board wants to see is progress. And the faster we tear that station down and the faster we go vertical, I think it provides the proverbial sigh of relief for the firefighters as well as the community to see that there's progress being made. And I just didn't want not put all the options on the table for the board to consider. We actually have even talked about not putting up any signs as to future home of this new fire station because we want to make sure we exceed the expectations for the public to be able to get that facility torn down and the new facility constructed. And so with our process being a little bit lengthier, we want to explore all options and give the board the opportunity to make a decision as to which way you want to move on this item.
Follow up.
Go ahead.
So are we voting on demolition? That's my question.
You're not voting on demolition today, sir.
Okay, because it says it in the resolution. So, and then in the backup, it says 250,000. So I wanted to be clear.
What the resolution contemplates that if we were to go through our normal procurement process, that the city would go through process, select who a demo contractor would be, and it would give the manager the authorization to execute the contract and bring it to the council for ratification after legal and the manager's office approves it. However, in light of the ability to move this quicker, there may be an opportunity for us to effectively use a contract that the county has secured. So the demolition piece will have to come back to you.
Okay.
Yes.
Follow up. So who does the relocation? Because I'm looking at the 50,000 for relocation. And what exactly will we be relocating?
Chief, if you want to speak to the specificities
Sure.
on the...
Relocation is multi-phased approach. There's cost associated with moving furniture, with bringing IT and facility services in. We've had IT there. We've had Palm Beach County's IT department out, putting up speakers when these sleeping quarters come in. There's going to be cost associated with running tone out and alerting systems to the sleeping trailer. When the bathrooms are relocated, there's going to be cost for electrical to hook that up. There's going to be cost for plumbing and sewer connections to hook that up. We also have electrical, so there's a variety of miscellaneous costs where it's not a simple relocation. There's a lot of build out and very specific things that are going to need to be done over the whole process. Right now, we just have a square building with a bathroom in it. There are no showering facilities, so all of those costs would tie into each one of those additional pieces to get them installed and make them functional.
Thank you.
All right, anyone else? All right, Madam Clerk?
Councilperson Lawson?
Yes.
Councilperson Lanier? Yes. Councilperson McCoy?
Yes.
Pro Tem Botel?
Yes.
Chair Miller Anderson?
Yes.
Unanimous vote.
Thank you.
Thank you, Council.
Item 38,
A resolution of the City Council of the City of Riviera Beach, Palm Beach County, Florida, adopting the FY 2019-2020 citywide goals to be incorporated into the FY 2019-2020 budget, creating a citywide vision for Riviera Beach 2030, and providing for an effective date. Madam Chair, we do have public comment cards on this item. The acceptance of public comment cards on this item is now closed.
all right.
So moved.
Second.
All right, Mr. Manager.
Madam Chair, this item before you is seeking adoption of resolution to establish the FY 2019-2020 citywide goals and incorporate these goals into the FY 19, FY 20 budget with the intent of moving forward towards Riviera Beach 2030. On Saturday, August 10th, 2019, the City Council had a retreat to establish priorities and goals for the city of Riviera Beach. We had the fortunate opportunity to work with Ms. Leah Gaines, who's in attendance this evening. Thank you. And we've identified 5 overarching goals. And those 5 overarching goals are prosperous, resilient, and sustainable economy, great neighborhoods, operational excellence, government stewardship and accountability, community engagement, and empowerment. Those goals are intended to be incorporated into your fiscal year 2019-2020 adopted budget. Every goal that the city of Riviera Beach will establish as far as an operational goal or objective will coincide with those 5 overarching goals. The intent is to make sure that those are the priorities of the board, and everything that we do coincides with the priorities of the board, so we can effectively move forward to establishing what we would like to see our community be in 2030. So this resolution allows us to memorialize it in the budget document, and then staff will begin bringing forward their operational goals and objectives to align with the city council's goals and objectives. Our intent is then to report to the board quarterly with measurable accomplishments that we have made consistent with those goals, and then report back to the board. In the event that the board chooses to change any of its goals and objectives, that is something that will be discussed as we move through the budget process. But in the documentation and the attachment, it speaks on more specificity and drills down in greater detail on some of those goals. And at this time, staff recommends approval of the resolution that's before you this evening and is prepared to answer any questions the board may have.
All right, we'll go to public comment.
Mary Bram, Doretta Polk.
You made it.
Miss Mayor
Good
Bram,
evening.
Riviera Beach. Councilman Troy McCoy looking at me. Repeat those 5, was it 5 or 6 of them? Prosperity, government, and what else you said? Accountability. Was that included in there?
We'll come back.
Because if you don't have accountability, then you need to chunk it out. Because you got to have accountability.
We have it.
You have to have accountability. So after I get through speaking, I would like for you to dialogue those criterias that was in the budget. You know, Bailey got up here and he spoke about the gas price. You know, our gas and stuff is going up. We can never go back. We have to move forward. You have a budget in front of you, and the budget here with a vision, you all vision, that will articulate the city in order to move the city in a direction that this city needs to be moved. We have not done anything in this city in up to years. Nothing. So now I'm proud of you all for wanting to move forward, you know, to have some criterias in place so that they can be governed and structured into doing the things that this city so badly needs. We are not bad. We are just only bad if we continue to be bad. But each individual, we do have a chance. And Mr. Evans, I want you to work just as hard on this budget here to make this city here perhaps get another award. So I'm quite sure I would like to have this board here go down in history as being a good board and a workable board. We may have our disagreements, but look, we always come back and we hug each other. And we say, that's okay, we'll work through it. And no harm shall be done. And the vision, I was just looking at the modular for the fire station. and these are steps here in order to build on. You know, the fire station planted their vision building system in each general condition, site preparation, site utilities, site construction, stairs, ramps. They did that. That was put in there in order to move what they needed to move forward. That's just the way your budget is. The things that are articulated in your budget so that you can be able to move, separate, do those things that you must do. not always wanting to do or don't want to do, but you must do in order to move the city forward. Thank you.
Thank you.
Doretta Polk.
Good evening, Board.
Good evening.
My name is Doretta Park, and my sentiments is basically the same as Mrs. Graham. What we need to you all to cooperate with each other and to work and move the city forward for our youth, for our young adults, and for our seniors. It is now time, whatever your agenda is, make it the agenda of the entire board. Work with Mr. Evans. Do not have any conflict up here, because this is for all of us, the entire city. So just work with each other, and don't have this distinction that we had with this last board, these last two council people that we had on here. Work together for the betterment of Riviera Beach, and let's move this vision forward, and that we'll have it in place for 2030. And I thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, any questions or comments from the board for item 38? All right, Madam Clerk?
Councilperson Lawson.
Yes.
Councilperson Lanier. Yes. Councilperson McCoy.
Yes.
Pro Tem Botel.
Yes.
Chair Miller Anderson.
Yes.
Unanimous vote.
Discussion and deliberation, none. Discussion by city manager?
Yes, Madam Chair and members of the board, just a couple of items. Announcement that we would like to have an executive session with the city council on September 25th to talk about labor negotiations with the Police Benevolent Association. We'd like to have that meeting start at 5:30, located here in the city council chambers. The individuals that would be present would be myself, the city attorney, Labor Counsel, Mr. Jack McLean, as well as Mr. Randy Sherman and Ms. Eureka Irvin and Shavonna Bookert from the HR department. We anticipate that the session will only take about 30 and at max 45 minutes to get direction from the board as to how you would like to proceed. We've already had the discussion with the board, but pursuant to the statute, we need to announce it in a public setting.
Mr. Evans?
I think Don was going to take the role on that one, so,
If I,
Yeah,
when
you
it gets to my comments, I can wait and read the formal.
okay.
Oh, you stole her thunder.
I stole her thunder, yeah, yeah. The next item is to see if the board would consider postponing its September 28th workshop to Saturday, October 5th, and add an item to have the presentation from the Riviera Beach Housing Authority. And then we would like to remove the item on discussing legislative aids to your workshop in November, merely from the standpoint is the items that we have on the agenda, they're pretty lengthy items, and we are going to set some time associated with each of those items. And so if we can't get through it in an hour or so, then we will postpone it to your next meeting in November. So I wanted to see if the board was amenable to changing from September 28th to October 5th. We would start at the same time, 9:30, and go till about 3:30. And we would ask to add the section in there specific to the Riviera Beaches Housing Authority item, and I'm meeting with the executive director, and then postpone the discussion on the legislative aids to your meeting in November. If the board is so inclined to do that, and plus I want to see if the board was okay with us either moving the meeting to the Marina Event Center or the Brooks Center to be able to have another facility as opposed to us having a workshop in here. I think it's more conducive in another environment. So staff is requesting direction on that particular item.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
I think so as well. We don't, I think the workshop should be outside of the chambers. It's more conducive to, not so formal, that we can have conversations about these items. The Marina, Brooks Center, doesn't matter, but as long as it's not in this formal setting.
All right, anyone else regarding that?
That's, Madam Chair,
Mhm.
that's just for the October 5th?
Yes, yes.
What day did we set for the port?
The port is actually, and that is for September 30th, the Monday. That's a joint meeting with the port.
Over there.
Over there, yes, at 6 PM.
And My apologies. So I want to understand, what's the nature? Is it the agreement, the interlocal agreement that we'll be handling with the port?
They would like to talk to us about the interlocal agreement. They also would like to speak to us about the a stormwater drain or outfall, and they also want to talk about another project that they have on their property. So 3 items. If there's any items that the board would like to consider to discuss with the port, they're also amenable to obviously adding some items from the city. So if you, over the next couple of days, want to think about some items that you'd like to add, we can certainly do that. This is also going to be a facilitated discussion. We're going to have Ms. Leah Gaines that will facilitate the conversation between the port and the city of Riviera Beach.
Follow up. Would there be another opportunity that we meet as a body prior to us meeting with the port?
We have, you have your executive session that we have, and then immediately following your executive session, you have your CRA meeting. So if the board wanted to have a discussion, maybe immediately following your CRA meeting, we can certainly do that if that's the pleasure of the board.
Okay.
And if there's no other questions on that, the last item I have is that on October 2nd, which is a regular city council meeting, we'd like to see about the possibility of having a special meeting of the USD at 5:45 just to execute the resolution that would allow for us to have our utility district meetings concurrently with our second regular meeting of the month. So we would just be addressing that resolution and then going into our regular city council meeting.
What time?
At 5:45.
Okay, October 2nd. All right, that's fine with me.
That's concludes my comments for this evening.
All right. City
Madam Chair.
Attorney? Yes.
Man, I forgot something.
I was gonna say, it's
Okay.
not 10 o'clock yet. so
No,
what are we doing?
I just need authorization to cancel the 28th and reschedule for October 5th, the workshop.
All right, motion?
So moved. Second.
Councilperson Lawson,
Yes.
Councilperson Lanier,
Yes.
Councilperson McCoy.
Yeah.
Pro Tem Botel.
Yes.
Chair Miller Anderson.
Yes.
Unanimous vote.
All right, anything else? All right, Ms. Nguyen.
Thank you. I'd like to announce the closed executive session pursuant to Florida Statute 286.0118D, Public Meetings and Records, and in a desire to obtain advice concerning litigation, I am requesting on behalf of our outside labor counsel a time that the city council is available for a closed executive session in the matter of Police Benevolent Association labor negotiations. And therefore, a closed executive session, we would like to be held on the 25th day of September, 2019 at 5:30 p.m. at City Hall Council Chamber, 600 West Blue Heron Boulevard, second floor, Riviera Beach, Florida, 33404, for the purpose of, again, PBA labor negotiations. Those persons in attendance will be myself, City Attorney Dawn Nguyen, Special Counsel Jack McLean, Esquire, Mayor Felder, members of the City Council, City Manager Jonathan Evans, Assistant City Manager Deirdre Jacobs, and the labor negotiating team members, Eureka Young, Interim Director of Human Resources, Shavana Booker, Human Resources Administrator, Randy Sherman, Director of Finance, Interim Chief Rozier, Interim Police Chief Rozier. The subject of the closed executive session will be restricted to settlement negotiations and/or strategy sessions related to collective bargaining.
All right, that's it?
That's it. Thank you.
Okay, city,
Time, I'm sorry.
Sorry.
Madam Chair.
September 25th, 5:30. So it's before your CRA meeting, right? Correct?
yes. City council committee reports. All right, statements by mayor and city council. We'll start with Mayor Felder.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just wanted to invite the public, you're invited to attend a Florida Memorial University, West Palm Beach County FMU football rebirth reception. Florida Memorial is starting their football team back up, And so they're going to be here on Tuesday, September 24th from 6 to 8. We're going to host it at Jay's Outreach Ministries. Also on Saturday, September 28th, if you're a student, made it 4 or 5 on the FSA, it's now time to ride our partnership with the Rapids. We have like 146, 150 kids that we're going to be sponsoring along with the Rapids to go out for a fun day. That's September 28th, working along with the school, the 4 elementary schools and Kennedy, to get the names, the students get the permission slips signed. Also, we just want to thank our community residents for stepping up in our Bahamian relief. This would be the last week at the fire station. Tropical will be coming to pick the containers up, I think Saturday or Sunday. Of course, we're going to keep going in other fashions, but we just want to commend our residents for stepping up and helping in the relief efforts of our brothers and sisters. Also, shout out to Johnny Longboats last night. Hosted an event. We had a great turnout last night just to continue those efforts to collect supplies to send over to the Bahamas. So this will be the last week at the fire station, so if you have anything else, bring it between Saturday and Sunday. Those containers will be out of here by Monday. Thank you.
All right. Chair Pro Tem Botel.
Yes, seeing Dr. Glenn Spiritus here reminds me that the Waterfront Advisory Group will be meeting within the next 2 weeks. Dr. Spiritus once again has offered the room, the community room at the Waterglades for our meeting, and we appreciate that very much. I have heard from the Environmental Resources Management Group that they are very available and interested in making a presentation about beach replenishment, and they have some things to share with us. I need a date from Mr. Evans when he would be able to join us, because it would be wonderful to have him there. So as soon as I get that, we'll schedule it, and thank you. Our legal department has been working diligently on a process to begin re-tagging, or to re-begin, starting again the process of tagging derelict boats, particularly those over by Peanut Island. That's one of the things that our Waterfront Advisory Group had been working on, and I'm happy to report that in the very near future, correct me if I'm wrong, City Attorney, but I hope in the very near future, we will be tagging those derelict boats again and cleaning that area up and getting rid of that nuisance. I wanted to thank the Parks and Rec. I see Mr. Blankenship is not here, but their staff did a great job of cleaning up the beach path over by Amrit. According to one of the neighbors, they just did an outstanding job, and so I want to give my thanks to them. I want to let people on Singer Island know that Mr. Evans is setting up a regular schedule of maintenance for grass cutting and maintenance of the areas over there that have concerned us in recent weeks. So that will be in the near future. He'll be able to tell us exactly when we can expect to have the grass cut and how the areas will be maintained, and we appreciate that. We conducted a very successful beach cleanup with the help of city staff, Amrit, the Marriott, Oceanside Beach Resort, Loggerhead Marine Life Center, and Johnny Longboats last week before, and will be participating in the International Beach Cleanup on Saturday, September 21st. So I hope people come out and join us to help clean our beaches. And lastly, I have been asked by a certain group of Singer Island residents if they could do a cleanup on the lagoon side. And I would ask staff to determine for us whether or not we need to seek permission from landowners, or how we would go about setting up a cleanup, not of the beach, but rather of the lagoon side of North Ocean Drive. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman McCoy.
I have nothing other than to share that Neighbors United will be doing also a cleanup on the same day as the coastal cleanup at Cunningham Park, I believe starting at 9 o'clock a.m., and that's on West 29th Street and Avenue S.
All right. Councilwoman Lanier.
I just wanted to remind everyone that September 18th today is what they call National HIV/AIDS and Aging Awareness Day. For those of you who don't know, in my day job, I'm a health planner, and I do HIV/AIDS for Palm Beach County. South Florida is the #1 in the country of new HIV/AIDS cases. December 1st is World AIDS Day, and we are looking to do some outreach, some planning, some prevention in Riviera Beach for HIV/AIDS, given that when we do geo-mapping for the county, Riviera Beach stands out in terms of new cases. So it is a public health issue, and we want to make sure that people who are unaware of their status, to be tested so that they can get the treatment that they need to be able to become undetectable. Undetectable means untransmittable, which means a person who is HIV positive and is undetectable cannot transmit the virus to anyone else. So it is our job, it is our duty to ensure that people are aware of their status and to become tested. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Lawson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to ask if my colleagues would support me in calling for a special meeting on September 25th, in between our executive session and before our CRA meeting, for two-part. To have our port discussion prior to actually going to that port meeting, and also to bring into resolution our educational funds. Some of us have already allocated some of the educational funds, and if we don't bring the resolution prior to the end of this fiscal year, they don't roll over. They just go back into the general fund. No, that based on the conversation with Mr. Sherman, if he could clarify that, the educational funds, it starts a new funding for next term, which we did allocate, but the ones that we have allocated currently will not roll over.
Which one are you talking about? Because I thought we
We have
talked
about 20,000 left in the educational fund prior to the new fiscal year coming.
I thought you said it rolled over. We had this conversation last time.
Yeah, good evening. I'm Randy Sherman, Director of Finance. Yeah, the funds right now are sitting in contingency, so unless you've pulled them out of contingency, then they're going to just lapse. So,
So what did you tell us to do last time when we talked about this a couple weeks ago?
Well, again, we have to, and I know we've provided a couple of you copies of the resolution that needs to be adopted. But that's, if we want to have that meeting, we can certainly do that and get those resolutions on.
So what I'm asking for, council, is for us to go ahead and bring that resolution before the board so we can adopt them and allocate those funds that were assigned for those, because currently they're sitting in contingency and they will go into the general fund if we don't utilize them for this current cycle.
And
if I'm
then,
accurate.
again, starting on October 1st, we put 30,000 in, and which will be available.
So yes, we need to.
Madam Chair, if I may, and obviously with the city attorney's blessing, would it be okay for the board to effectively take a voice vote to encumber the monies with the intent to bring back a resolution that effectively accomplishes what we're talking about at the first meeting in October versus a situation where we call a special meeting maybe exclusively for that particular resolution?
I would suggest that you give direction to Mr. Sherman,
Yeah.
not to roll it.
Because what we can easily do, if it's the pleasure of the board, we can take those monies and roll those monies forward and add it to the monies that you have set aside for fiscal year 2019, 2020, and then bring back the corresponding resolution to effectively memorialize that as part of your first meeting in October, so you wouldn't have to call that. But if you wanted to also have that special meeting to talk about your strategy session with the Port of Palm Beach, that's another issue, but we could at least dispose of that one particular issue if it's the pleasure of the board.
Yeah, you could make a motion,
Yeah,
call the
that would
vote,
be
and we
fine.
could ratify it in October, since
All
we
right,
don't have
so
the resolution in front
Mr.
of you.
Lawson?
So it was a two-part, just because the resolution would have made sense to come back. If we can roll them over, that's fine. But also, I want us to be on a unified front when we actually go into that port meeting. So I want to have somewhat of a discussion to actually know what we're talking about there so that we can be together on that. Okay. So if it's fine to do the resolution, just to keep the meeting shorter for October, making sure those funds roll over, because those funds that we have, I've allocated to the schools that I've adopted. So I want to make sure that we can utilize those. And then we also have the additional budget for next year that we're going to possibly talk about, either doing a collaboration or how we decide as a board. But whichever part is the pleasure of the board is what I'd like to go forward with.
All right, so if he makes a motion, make a motion to support what they just
I'll make a
stated.
motion.
Well,
Or Madam Chair, you still need to do a motion for a special meeting on the 25th to discuss your.
well, we
or-
haven't worked that part out just yet.
We haven't.
We'll come back to that part.
Okay.
Let's take care of this, and then we'll go to that.
So I can make a motion to allow for us to bring the resolution, the first meeting in October, to roll the funds for the educational account forward from 2018, 2019 fiscal year.
Second.
Madam Clerk?
Councilperson Lawson?
Yes.
Councilperson Lanier? Councilperson McCoy?
Yes.
Pro Tem Botel?
Yes.
Chair Miller Anderson?
Yes.
Unanimous vote.
All right, and now, in terms of the meeting for the port, we have the executive session. That's the one, or is that?
Yes, we have
what
the
we're talking-
executive
session, and then we have the CRA, and so after the CRA, you want to have a meeting to address the port.
Just so that we could actually be on the same page with understanding what to talk about, what topics we're going to address.
So immediately following the
Following
CRA
CRA.
meeting, you would like to have a discussion about the port. All right, motion? Yes.
So, Councilman Lawson, ironically, I had spoke to you today about the housing authority issue, and particularly, I think I just kind of threw out or floated the idea because they had some time constraints relative to Florida Finance Housing Corporation. And thank you, Councilman Lawson, because I was thinking, we're going into an interlocal agreement meeting workshop with the port, and we haven't even developed, our position on that, because I was very much concerned, and my next move was going to be to have a conversation with you about our position going into this meeting. So I think it's perfect that we at least have some conversation prior, but I want to see if that's an opportunity for us to have the housing authority issue limited to the one item that they brought forth by email that I asked about. I think this was probably in early part of August, and then I again brought up here tonight that we can have that also in the meeting, but I didn't want to suggest we come out solely for that item. But if we're going to be here, can we also have that item to be discussed?
It's certainly the pleasure of the board. If the board chooses to do that, we can discuss that as well. Right now, it's tentatively placed on the agenda for the 5th, but we can move it if the board chooses to do so.
So my understanding was that we were going to address the housing authority in general, but the specific resolution that they brought forth to us about the disposition of surplus property, I wanted to see if we can deliberate and discuss that ahead of the 5th meeting because of the deadline that they're facing with Florida Finance Corporation for new market tax credits.
I don't know specifically what the date is for the Florida Finance Corporation as far as what that consists of. So if it is something that is time sensitive that the board chooses to discuss on the 25th immediately following, we can certainly do that, but then that limits staff's ability to sit down, because I'm meeting with the executive director on Friday to be able to get what their perspective is, be able to write a memorandum to the board to speak on exactly what effectively the ask is, and if there is any other requests that are associated with that. It's a pretty quick turnaround time to get you guys something to consider. If we wanted to just have the conversation and then have more specifics that are communicated, maybe at your, if we have the discussion on the 25th and then you bring it to the October 2nd meeting for vote up, vote down, we can certainly do that.
It would be my position to have it on there specifically because it deals solely with the one issue that we've been emailed about. I know I've had several meetings with them, and then also what we've heard here tonight. So, that's what I have. So, I would like to see that it be placed on that agenda if we come in for.
All right, so those two items, the items regarding specifically about the housing authority for the surplus property, and the item for the port discussion, those would be the two. So you need a motion for that second one, Mr. McCoy?
For both of them, because we didn't get a motion to
Okay.
schedule the meeting
We
at
didn't do
all.
one for the port yet? So you need, okay, for both of them.
Madam Chair,
Go ahead.
I think we should determine first whether or not there is in fact a time issue. Do we know from the Housing Authority, is there a time issue with this decision? Yes. So it's, Madam Chair, may I engage with?
If we don't need to, I'm thinking we can go ahead and put it on there, and if, because he's saying he's going to be meeting with them on Friday, we can put it on the agenda. If he has the information to give to us, we can. I mean, if we need to meet again on the 2nd or whatever the next meeting is, then we can do that.
Well, if that's the pleasure, Mr. Manager, if we put that on, can you make sure that they're aware that they need to be prepared to present next Friday
Yes, sir, absolutely.
on whatever this proposed policy change
Yeah.
relative to surplus?
And I will work with legal to look at the language in the resolution, and we'll work with the Housing Authority to bring you something of substance for your meeting on the 25th. And then if the board directs staff to queue it up for the October 2nd meeting for approval or modification or denial, we will be ready for that as well.
All right, so we need a motion for those two items for the, immediately following the CRA meeting on the 25th.
So moved.
Second.
Madam Clerk?
Councilperson Lawson?
Yes.
Councilperson Lanier?
Yes.
Councilperson McCoy?
Yes.
Pro Tem Botel?
Yes.
Chair Miller Anderson?
Yes.
Unanimous vote.
All right, what were we in the middle of? We were in the middle of comments, right? We went from comments to making motions and, all right, so everybody is done at this point, except for me, and no additional motions, votes, and comments. I don't have any comments at this time, and with that, we stand adjourned.